For hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room. Witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room.
Hey, how are you? Very good. Welcome. Very good. It's the 28th day of April 2000 and... Hey, seems like 75 days ago since that time when fuel prices did not go up. Right? Should have been only 13 days ago, but it's not.
It's 75.
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you remember that day?
Do you remember? Huh? That day when fuel prices did not go up? Yes, I do.
And it's not one of those that you say, it feels just like yesterday. No, it doesn't. Hey, City, good morning.
Morning, Eric.
How are you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Karibu kwenye ukumbi.
Asante sana.
Kenya what now?
Kwenye ukumbi.
Oh, kwenye. Sawa.
Now, I am aware of your affiliation to the Luo Nation Ndu. Ukumbi has no bearing whatsoever with the Luo word okombe, which is a cup.
Otherwise known as kikombe.
Trophy.
Yes, trophy. Correct, yes. Okay. Yeah, just so that you bear that in mind.
Apana okombe.
I'm the trophy.
Si okombe.
No, you're the trophy.
I am the trophy.
Kabisa. Hey. Okay. Many ways to look at it. Very good morning to you all. Welcome to the show this morning. We'll have a lot of things to discuss. Number one, we are heading towards making history in having the first female head of an arm of government in Kenya. With yesterday's nomination by the Judicial Service Commission of Justice Martha Koome to be the next Chief Justice of the Republic, a lot has happened. The grass... Hey.
The grass shifted.
I was talking about that glass ceiling. Yes.
Oh, okay, the glass ceiling.
Yes.
You were not talking about the grass being green on the other side.
No.
Okay, we got it.
Yep. That glass ceiling and all. She was my candidate for judge of the Supreme Court. And then William Oko for Chief Justice. I think the Judicial Service.
Today is that day. Don't worry. It's a day before Thursday.
Okay,
it's a day before the second Thursday of the week. So we understand. We get it.
Okay, you've already pledged loyalty to your relative. Now start again.
The grass ceiling
The
and the glass being greener on the other side.
The grass ceiling. Let's carry on, Eric. The
And
grass
the
ceiling.
Judicial Service Commission
That one.
reversing this and basically maybe turning it upside down. So, we'll have a conversation about this. What does it mean having Martha Koome as the next Chief Justice? First of all, now that the President receives recommendations from the JSC and has not appointed 41 judges, is there a likelihood that he may just look at this and dilly-dally? And then what?
Well, I think the what has already been answered. If he dilly-dallies, then he is dilly-dallying.
That's it.
And that's it.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it.
Absolutely nada.
There's usually a lot you can do.
Oh, you can do it. It's not going to have any impact on whether he behaves or not. Can do all you want. Dance until you sweat, until sun comes up. But hey, you will still go home.
Okay. So we'll have a conversation with constitutional lawyer Kamodo Waiganjo on this. And also we'll have the same conversation with feminist lawyer, writer, policy analyst Marilyn Kamuru. We had a conversation with her before the interviews began. And she's one of those lawyers who've been advocating for a female Chief Justice. Now, if this goes according to plan, we'll have a Chief Justice and a Deputy Chief Justice who are both female. And then we'll also be looking at another list there. The judiciary, many in the senior positions in the judiciary, various levels of the judiciary, are women. A very good thing to look at. Today also, members of parliament have been recalled for 2 days to do very, very important work. And this is discuss the Bbi Bill. This is the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. Despite the joint committee of the National Assembly and the Senate coming up with a recommendation that says apana, ODM has said we are whipping our members to support this. It doesn't really matter whether they say yes or no in terms of what happens next in the process, but it could hold sway, not sway really, it could have impact in public perception of the entire process and the bill. Politically, what does it mean? We'll have a conversation about that as well, right? Right? Let's start with the COVID.
Let's do that. All right, so let's start with COVID-19 numbers in Kenya. 511 cases yesterday, 22 new deaths, taking Kenya's numbers now to 157,492. Still looking then at what the Ministry of Health is reporting in terms of COVID-19 vaccinations. We're getting closer and closer to the time when... So we're getting into the month of May in about a week or so. Many questions in terms of what will happen for measures that have been put in place, COVID-19 in the country. We already know that those curfew times have been extended until the 29th of March at least. All right, so looking at a vaccination update, a total of 840,075 people have so far been vaccinated against COVID-19 in the country. And so with the number of vaccines that have been distributed countrywide, we're still looking at just under 200,000 left to go for those that had actually reached the country. So we'll wait and see what happens in terms of new batches coming in, and then the promise that other people then will be vaccinated. But what are we looking at now is that 1,080,000 vaccines, enough for that number to get their first dose. Not that we thought where it would cover first and second dose for 500,000 people, but now 1 million and something people would have been vaccinated. So the rest is just a wait-see kind of thing. When they come in, then, we'll let you know when you can get your second shot or even your first one. Yeah.
Okay.
So for now, that's how things are.
Okay.
Let's look around the world now. India still continues to take a hit. 1 million cases, increase of 1 million cases between Monday and today. 17,988,637 cases is what we're looking at in India now. Vaccines, oxygen, what exactly is it that India needs? Right now, India needs to be able to take care of its sick. And one of the ways in which they need to do that then is to have an adequate supply of oxygen. We've already seen some countries offering this assistance. If we look at the cases that they did then report yesterday, 362,902 new cases yesterday, 3,285 deaths. Now, when we look at the population of India, we're saying, okay, 1.3 billion, 3,000 people per day is really, okay, 3,000 people is a drop in the ocean in terms of the population. But really, when one life is too much, in my opinion. But if you're looking at a constant 3,000 people dying every day for 30 days, you lose 1 million people. And this is the direction in which India is hurtling to right now. Not able to take care, not having enough capacity to take care of those who are presenting themselves to hospital and are unwell. And this, as we've been told, is actually not the true number. Very possible that cases of COVID-19 are much, much more than this. Compare it to another part of the world where in the US, the government is actually paying people $100 to go out and get the vaccine. So young people really in the States are getting a savings bond of $100 if they actually go out and get the COVID-19 vaccine. West Virginia, very close to the capital, Washington, D.C., says it hopes to also have the payment. It hopes to have this payment for 16 to 35-year-olds. And rather, they hope that this payment will motivate 16 to 35-year-olds to get the jab, So we pay you to get this, and hopefully they will. So still this issue of them sharing the AstraZeneca vaccine, which they booked and they've not yet approved for use, and they're likely to give this all away. All right, so that's what's happening around the world. Coming back here to the country, again, wait and see in terms of what will happen for the vaccine. Measures still in place, another month or so. Let's wait and see.
So what does that mean then in terms of us getting the vaccines on time?
On time? what you would have to ask then, what time period are we saying? What's on time, really?
Within the 12 weeks of people, the first person receiving the first vaccine. Who was the first person to receive it? It was Dr. Amoth.
Dr. Amoth, yes.
Okay. He's almost exhausting his 8 weeks.
He's 8 weeks.
He's going into the
He's going into the 11th, I think, right now. So if you're asking about that time, then we're already late.
Let's introduce a new factor to this discussion. Did we witness the Sputnik 5 vaccines actually returning from whence they had come?
Or a stoppage of those who were being inoculated?
Or the existence of either other vaccines in this country, even if they haven't been approved by our Pharmacy and Poisons Board?
It's interesting that you asked that, because I did see on social media one of the individuals who had then gone on and been very public about his initial Sputnik 5 jab a few days ago, now telling us how he got the second one. So,
second Sputnik?
Yes.
Well, maybe he had bought both.
At the same time, and then injected himself.
I think you've gotten to the heart of the matter. I am saying
he had gotten
this.
in both, third one in the fridge.
But here you are.
Kungapi.
We don't know if they actually then were all bundled up and put in a place so nobody could get them, or if measures were put in place to make sure that nobody continued to administer, or if they were taken and then
that no more arrived.
Destroyed.
Or when you talk about us having vaccinated close to 900,000, there's still 100,000 left. And we do have counties that aren't really bothering with this issue of vaccination. And they have citizens in those counties who really don't see the need for this vaccination. So you have them.
Yeah, we have
so it isn't as though those who are in a position of authority and power, as though they are completely without options as to whether they will get the second vaccination or not. What they will not do is tell us.
No, they will not.
Okay? Now, I know this is conspiracy theory.
So they'll get their own jab.
Yes,
jab,
this is conspiracy theory at its very best.
and leave us to our own devices.
But we're always being left to our own devices anyway.
So what's the change now?
It isn't a hopeless situation.
The president received his jab after yours.
The president was visibly seen as receiving his jab after I'd received mine. Okay? I do not know whether that was his first jab or his second jab.
Wow, okay. CT's on the conspiracy tip this morning. Well done, CT.
Okay, I hear what you're saying, CT. I don't understand it, but I hear it. Kenya's biggest conversation. Keep it right here. Let's take a break, take a look at the weather. Live streaming on SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, wherever you are. Very good morning to you. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Have you visited the website lately? Have you seen the kind of jobs that have been advertised there? Have you subscribed to receive job alerts on your email or your SMS? Please do so. It's jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Very many jobs have been advertised there. You could just be the person that one of these organizations is looking for. It's 6:15.
24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
You better be ready. Every Friday at 7:30 p.m. only on KTN Home. It's the Shining Stars TV show moment. Get ready to be inspired. Get ready to be part of an exciting journey of discovery and learning with talented children.
Held me down, but I got up. Get ready, 'cause I had enough.
Get ready to be entertained by super amazing young talent. Because hii ni yetu, from our own talented stars, hosted by #1 TV host, Sleepy David. Shining Stars TV show, every Friday, 7:30 p.m. only on KTN Home. Be part of the journey.
We've been all through it, you know. We go to school, study hard, get the much-deserved grades, and celebrate our graduation. Then reality hits us. We get to the job market and we simply don't know where to start off. Thankfully, by visiting jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, your next career breakthrough could be a click away. Get the best in career advice, employment opportunities, internships, part-time jobs, CV writing, and interview coaching. Give your career the much needed lift on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke.
All right, a drizzle in some parts of Nairobi this morning. 18 degrees. It's going to go to highs of 25 today, lows of 17. Light rain in Nyeri at 16, lows of 15, going to highs of 24. 26 will be the high in Nakuru today, where it's partly cloudy at 16. Partly cloudy conditions in Eldoret at 13 degrees. That'll be the low for today, going to highs of 24. We'll see highs of 28 in Kisumu. It's partly cloudy at 19, and also mostly cloudy conditions in Kakamega this morning at 15. Highs of 27. 31 the high in Mombasa. It's raining this morning at 26. It's also raining in Malindi at 27, highs of 31. 25 will be the high in Kampala. Partly cloudy conditions at 22, and it's raining lightly in Dar es Salaam at 25. Highs of 31, highs of 24 in Johannesburg. It's clear this morning at 18 degrees. It's ringing in mostly clear in Lagos early morning at 27. Go to highs of 33 and lows of 26. 24 will be the recorded low in Kinshasa, which is where it is currently, and raining. Highs of 33. Looking out east into Beijing, it's 21 degrees and sunny into early afternoon. We'll see highs of 22 and lows of 8. Clear conditions in Paris at 5. Highs of 19 and lows of 7. 12 will be the high recorded in London today. Waking up, it's 7 degrees and clear. 12 degrees Tuesday night in New York. We'll see highs of 16 and lows of 11.
Sugar and spice and everything nice. SpiceFM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4.
Clock goes online.
Everybody, good morning, guys. Robert Bogo tuned in from Mombasa this morning, and Benjamin Omudiali is tuned in from Kangemi. Dandora is where Stanley Kamwigi is tuned in from, and Cyprian Morris says, good morning, guys. Good to be alive, ready to grind. Tuned in from Nakuru County. Karibu Sana. Matthews Banda says, good morning, and Jose Mainandohio says, good morning and congratulations to Lady Justice Martha Koome. Morning, great people. Tuned in from the show from Getari Village. That's where Boshogoro Omkaya is tuned in from. Oh, right. So I should tell you that Matthews Banda is tuned in from Mpulungu, Zambia's only port city. Simon Villa is locked this morning. Otieno Dero Jr.
Zambia's only port city.
Yes.
Okay.
Carry on.
Oh, voila. Okay. Otieno Dero says, Ukumbi has no relation whatsoever with the Luo word Okombe, which is a cup, as though you would not know. Siti Muga. And just like that, the day has broken. Good morning, guys in the house and all the listeners at SpiceFM from the Great Wall of Kino.
All right.
Mashakos is tuned in. That's where Beta Ashley is this morning. Alex Mbogo says, good morning, tuned in from Nyeri. Joyce Jerotich, Karibu Sana, good morning.
Hey.
Waterman Jeffrey tuned in from Hennepin County. Wakoli Dasan is tuned in from Kiambu and says, good morning. And hello to his mum, Alice in Dungoma. Well, good morning, mum. Oledore K says, good morning, tuned in from Mwega. Did I say that right?
Yes.
In Nyeri.
Yes.
Abu Mashar Issa says, good morning, guys. I appreciate, with other Kenyans, and highly appreciate your work. Keep up the good work, shall we? Thank you, sir. Paula says, good morning, tuning from Homa Bay County. Morning, and that's from Charles Njenga in Mombasa. He says the radio frequency is off. Well, we have to look at that, don't we?
Where?
Mombasa,
Okay.
the radio frequency.
Okay.
Check it out. Eric, you'll send the word. You'll do the thing. Good morning, Spice, following from Thika Road. Good
So
morning.
they're the ones in Mombasa. Siwaashe.
Asha Radio.
Yeah.
Charles. Asha Radio. Mila Menga. Good. Can see it's... can see today it's all jungle green.
Oh, is it?
I don't understand. Can't wait to...
Dress code.
Oh, the light's on and everybody's home. Can't wait to listen to the juggling that has given us Madam Kome as our first lady CJ. All right. Although Caleb says good morning, tuned in as usual. Everybody's tuned in today. My goodness. Reagan says he has nothing to smile about. How come a flight from India is allowed to land in JKIA with the situation in India? It doesn't make sense. He's asking about this. Charity Miners tuned in from Nakuru. Good morning, guys. And John Okumu says, good morning. Hope it will be an intense discussion on the choice of the justice position. And in County 003, which is Malindi, that's where Dorcas is, and she says it is raining finally.
At in Malindi County.
That's what she said. I was looking at CT to see if he was with us.
Yeah, Malindi County is next to Kilifi County.
Just checking to make sure if you know it. And it's 003.
Exactly right next.
Okay.
Good morning, everybody. Everybody's like, can't say all the names, but good morning, guys. Glad you're here with us.
Yes, thank you very much for tuning in today. City, today's proverb. Somebody actually has a proverb also for you. What did I see?
Oh, yeah,
On the
a child
Twitter mentions.
right here.
Yeah, read it, please.
That's Donald, and he says, good morning. I love the discussions. City's proverbs. A child on her mother's back does not know the far distance of a journey.
Thank you.
Do you?
All right, now for an adult proverb.
Wow, okay.
Adult on a child's back.
Well, actually, it's a beautiful proverb. We've actually had it on the show. It was alongside that proverb was, if you point a finger at the moon, what a child sees is your finger.
Yeah.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom. My mind immediately crosses over to Mogadishu. President Farmer Joe lost his reputation playing games with the election, got Parliament to extend his term.
Lo and behold.
Prime Minister rejected, federal states rejected. Now here we are.
He's going home.
Kingdom
Gone.
gone.
Man, reputation.
Kingdom.
I'm waiting for him to blame us because
Who, Kenya?
somehow... Yeah,
It all started with us. I mean, we are the instigators of all this.
It's a ploy that very many leaders use. You have an internal problem, but you manufacture, create, or point a finger at a would-be aggressor who is external in the hope that it will galvanize your people towards this one enemy who isn't within us.
Yeah.
But if you have an internal problem, the problem doesn't actually go away, you know.
Yeah.
You can shout as much as you like. The problem will simply not go away.
Okay, let's take a look at the headlines. Before we come to this one, which is the big headline on all the dailies today, how about I go to page 21 of The Nation, and I'm sure the Standard has it somewhere, and now going with what you were saying about reputations and kingdoms. There was an impeachment last evening of embattled Wajir Governor Mohammed Abdi. Despite his attempt to stop the vote through a court order, 37 MCAs endorsed the ouster motion while 10 voted against it. 2 members were absent. The ward reps accused Mohammed of corruption, gross misconduct and abuse of office. He is also accused of delegating powers to his wife, Keira Omar. According to the MCAs, earlier the governor's lawyers were locked outside the assembly building as they attempted to serve the MCAs with a court order suspending the impeachment. Meru High Court on Monday had temporarily suspended the impeachment until Thursday, when the court will issue directions in the case that the governor has filed. All right. The governor's lawyers are led by Degwa Jiro. Remember Degwa Jiro? Degwa Jiro. Kirinyaga County Assembly, lawyer, Degwa Jiro. Nairobi County Assembly, lawyer, Degwa Jiro. And this time it's not county assembly, it's governor. Wajir governor, lawyer, Degwa Jiro.
Well, he's gotten himself a good reputation, isn't he?
Really?
Yes.
He is.
Well, yes. Good for him.
Yes. So, let's see how this one goes. Will the court say we had issued a court order? Will the governor go to court and say, despite receiving a court order, we tried serving it to the county assembly and we were unable to serve it to the county assembly because they locked us out? Will this impeachment hold? Will it go to the Senate? Will the Senate hearings confirm this particular impeachment? games galore. Somebody said yesterday, it's harvest time at the Senate. Higher, other headlines.
Kome picked as next CJ as Ngatia claims rigging.
Yeah?
Of course he does.
Well, this is Business Daily,
Okay.
front page.
Okay.
Kome nominated next CJ as Ngatia claims rigging.
Okay.
Yes. Now, of interest, this is what is reported as having been spoken of by one Mr. Ngatia. 4 commissioners from Mount Kenya reduced my scores yesterday afternoon after they were called by powerful people, Mr. Ngatia told the Business Daily after the JSC announcement. Without that intervention, I was far ahead of all the other candidates, he added, without giving details on the scores and the venue of the meeting.
Wow. So he says that there was a call somewhere.
His marks were stolen.
And then there was, what do you call it in exam marking?
Oh, that rationalization is called, my goodness. Anyway.
We talked about it just the other day.
It'll come. It'll come.
So that's what happened.
Curve.
And then he lost.
Yes.
Yes. And then he lost a couple of marks.
Moderation.
Moderation. Now, because of moderation, he lost his marks. So basically, what the senior counsel is saying is he believes he won this.
Yes.
The people's CJ.
Yes.
Okay. This is interesting. Because as this is happening, remember, the JSC made the announcement soon after the Court of Appeal had released its verdict on the challenge that had been issued and the block that had been placed by the High Court on the JSC not to go ahead and announce a CJ or even commence the interviews for the Supreme Court judge. Ruling comes out. Immediately the JSC is like, okay, us guys are ready. We are going to announce. What was the court? Was it just finish but do not deliberate?
Yes.
So at what point was the deliberation?
Did they deliberate?
There is also a civil society group that also includes lawyer Makau Mutua, American-based Kenyan law scholar Makau Mutua, and Bbi Institute yesterday petitioned the High Court to order the Judicial Service Commission to open the servers. Those are my words. No, it's to make the scores of the candidates public for the purposes of transparency. You see? So the story is kimeibiwa, fungua server.
Otherwise, Taumana.
Kitaumana.
But you know, the thing about this is really, we are talking about the nomination of a Chief Justice, all right?
Yep.
The courts, High Court has decided to put a stay on that process, giving conditions and saying, you can do this, but you can't do the other, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's internal, all right? These people know each other. They will decide what is going to happen, okay? I never lose sleep over these things for the simple reason that if Martha Koome becomes Chief Justice, I'll be a very happy person. Yes. The fact that there'll be 2 women, Chief Justice Deputy, it doesn't matter. Are they capable? But that's it. Good for us. Wonderful. That they're women is just a detail. Okay? Why should it be an issue when we've had men deputizing other men for the longest time possible? Why should
The
it be
highest seat in the land. no
all
less.
the time? Why is this now an issue? It is fine. Is she competent? Yes.
That's what the
Has she been in our look?
Has she proven herself?
Yes, she has. So I do not see the wawa. As for one Mr. Ngatia, how on earth did he know about this marketing scheme?
He had access to the
How on
server.
earth did he know that somebody called somebody else and had a conversation?
Yes, which
Like you
means
said, they know one another. These
they know
people.
each other.
I was like, got off the phone and said, actually, you know what? I've just had a phone call with such and such a person, and this is what's going on.
But I'm taking it further. If you're to really take that discussion to its logical conclusion, then one could argue, if you have such knowledge about the marking scheme and the marking process,
Then even
and the final
you
results,
should be
yes,
out of contention.
Precisely, then we have to ask, what other influence then do you
have?
and if indeed you are the one who was nominated, how would we know that somebody else's marks had not been taken away?
That you hadn't made the
It
call.
would have been a good idea
yes,
for you to
exactly.
actually not mention this thing, because it actually sheds some negative light on you, my friend.
No, it opens up this thing to some fairly dark discussion. You are a candidate. You have all this information, and you're not even a part of that panel. How?
Wow. And then you know that people had a phone call. How?
Yes.
You're privy to information.
They
that
called you,
everybody
which
else-
means you can also call people.
Voila.
Okay? No.
So who is this insider person of yours?
Or these
Or are
insider
you the
people.
insider?
Or is it now that something that you had planned for didn't quite work the way you thought it would go?
And so now you're having a
crowing
meal
foul.
of sour grapes.
The thing is, it may very well be true what he's saying, but we don't know. All that he has done now is opened up a can of very serious looking worms.
Those ones are big. 28 to 7. Let's take a break. Let's see how the roads are looking this morning.
Have you seen them? Am I like?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
What
you.
a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's a very cool ambiance here in your radio room. Just for our listeners, I think it is below zero in this room here. Very Swiss temperatures.
All right,
Traffic.
Wednesday morning. It is Wednesday, isn't it? Yeah, all right. Moving along slowly this morning, coming on to Mombasa Road from the SGR. Not too fast. It's slowing down quite considerably around General Motors, and it's not too heavy at the moment. Looking at traffic hours starting a little bit later these days for some reason, but we're just gonna have take a look and see how this opens up. Coming off of Thika Road into the city, also not so bad right now. Gong Road, moving slowly, getting to the roundabout at City Mortuary. Something has held up traffic there, but we'll keep an eye on that and see what it does. All right, getting onto Mombasa Road, back onto Mombasa Road. Remember that as you get to the Nyeri Stadium roundabout, you're going left. And that's the only option that you have, at least for now. 29th is tomorrow. Let's see if they'll be done with this part by then. If not, we shall continue. Remember, if you're on public service and you're getting to the Railways bus terminal, today is day 2 of that journey, ending at the Green Park terminal, which is a former Luna Park. So be prepared for that. Let's take a look at how things will open up in about half an hour or so. Talk to us should you need to. SpiceFMKE on Twitter. Text us on 40127. The aim is to keep things moving this Wednesday.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, everything nice. SpiceFM.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4
Showdown
Spice FM.
moves as
Nairobi.
MPs debate BBI bill. That's what we're being told. The Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs came up with 2 reports, majority and minority. So they're saying a showdown looms in Parliament today as MPs debate the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, likely to be all fire and brimstone. Yesterday, ODM party whipped members to support the bill, popularly known as the Bbi Initiative Bill, following the claims that 2 camps, led by Siaya Senator James Orengo and lawyer Paul Mwangi, had emerged. The National Assembly and Senate are expected to concurrently table the bill, even as claims emerged that Deputy President William Ruto could have infiltrated the Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and influenced members to poke holes in the bill. Allegations that some county assemblies passed an erroneous version of the bill resulted in the committee coming up with 2 reports, majority and minority, with Murang'a Senator Irungu Kangata abstaining. And he said, my position on BBI debate tomorrow, which is today, first, many friends that have died because of COVID-19 and many businesses closed due to the pandemic. Vaccines first, 15 billion shillings referendum cash enough for vaccines? Secondly, correct injustices visited upon Mount Kenya on constituencies distribution. Why Nyeri none and Kwale 4? Those are his questions. Do you see why now they said showdown?
Yes.
You see now why showdown?
Yes.
Allies of President Uhuru Kenyatta, DP Ruto, and ODM leader Raila Odinga are reportedly divided, setting the stage for an emotive debate today.
And when the debate is concluded, how exactly will it change the forward march of the BBI to the referendum?
0, nothing,
Good.
nada.
Right. So it is good that we can see a discussion and witness and participate by viewing and listening how our constitution can be interpreted and how it can be operationalized. This is good.
But that's just about the size of it, isn't it? That it'll just be a robust conversation. But in terms of impact on whether this thing will go through or not, no, nothing.
The thing is, I cannot diminish the importance of the issues that are being raised. I cannot. And why I cannot is because this is how you arrive at a clearer understanding of some of these complexities that huge institutions and documents like the Constitution have. When it's talked about, when people bring up issues, see, I then learn, I then understand things that I didn't understand before. So this is not futile, it is good.
Yep. The robust nature of the conversation and the debate is good.
It is good. And it's also good to see politicians at their very best, saying things that they know are supposed to sound good, things that will resonate well. Because everybody now is concerned about the vaccine. Everybody now is very, very concerned about the welfare of the citizens. We had problems before COVID.
No, citizens existed before.
Yes.
They did. So,
yes.
I mean.
And all these people whose voices we now hear with great clarity were elected. Okay.
By the same citizens.
I go back to that scorecard, track record, long before COVID. What is it that you were doing and you did that shows that you were someone who had the interest of your people at heart?
Even now, in this time of COVID, what have you done to try and get the speaker's attention to the fact that many people require support or that we need to find money to buy vaccines? What have you done as a member of parliament? Have you lobbied the leadership of parliament to call such a session?
Yes. Is it not parliament that determines, for instance, see, we have a budget-making parliament.
Yes.
Okay? So, if you're a budget-making parliament, all these things, there should be money. I thought you were the people who actually determine the direction which this money is supposed to go. So, you keep talking and shouting as though you have no say, and yet you are the ones who are responsible for making the budget. What are you talking about?
It's your job.
Yes. And then, this money ought to be, this money ought to be. What are you talking about exactly?
Anyway, so we'll talk about that in greater detail and see the drama and all the politics around it. Back page of The Nation today is a very disturbing story. Anger as ministry distributes toxic ARVs.
Oh dear.
The government is on the spot for releasing ARVs phased out years ago due to their adverse side effects on patients. Now, the story says that KEMSA on Thursday flagged off 31 counties some 29 types of ARVs in 24,800 packs, including that medication worth 1.2 billion shillings, were drugs that were phased out in 2019. Another consignment was dispatched to the remaining 16 counties from yesterday. So there are some 3 phased out drugs. Ebu, name them. Those ones. City. How do you? Zidovudin.
You're speaking Russian.
Zidovudin, Lamivudin, Navirapin. Is that it?
You've done well, yes.
Okay.
Once you get your tongue around it,
So
it
Ndovu,
actually flows.
Lami,
Don't say it again.
and
Well,
Navi.
we understood the first time.
Yeah,
huh?
Ndovu, Lami, and Navi. The Ministry of Health had said Navirapin would no longer be used in Kenya from December 2019. However, the adult tablets that were declared unfit for use were once again being released to patients, according to The Nation. The drugs were flagged off from an old stock donated by the Global Fund and PEPFAR, and they had been held at the warehouse for months. However, KEMSA had said that it had destroyed the drugs. What is this? Explain, City.
Well,
what is happening here?
You see, one of the biggest problems that we always have when we're discussing sensitive issues is we discuss sensitive issues perhaps with only part of the information, or we discuss it with the information, but then the reporting, the manner in which the matter is reported gives the impression that there were some really negative things. The adverse effects of nevirapine have always been known. It's not that they have not been known. ARVs, by their very nature, if not properly used, are toxic. They can cause you harm, and that is why they have to be prescribed, and that is why you have to have somebody who understands the working and the composition of the drug to be able to advise you on what to use it. Many times people get prescriptions of ARVs and the drugs act negative, and they come back and they're then given a new set of drugs to be able to deal with the same problem. Okay? Nevirapine has a reputation for the longest time. It was one of the drugs that was always used as a prophylaxis, meaning as a preventative measure, one for children as for mothers who are breastfeeding. But even then, when women who are HIV positive sought to have children, nevirapine was also administered. There is a careful way in which it was administered because it then reduced the viral load that the lady had in her body to be able to give that fetus, that child, a fighting chance to actually be born HIV negative. So it isn't as though the discussion around nevirapine is new. No. My friend, there were other drugs that came into being. They were discontinued. There's one called naloxone 9. It actually dealt a serious blow to the HIV virus, but it also dealt a very serious blow to the human being in whom the virus existed. So that particular drug was shelved a long time ago. Things like ARVs, things like the vaccines we're talking about are still a work in progress. Believe me, even as you have these drugs. Remember, there was a time when you were on ARVs, it's like you went shopping. It was a whole basket load of drugs.
Right.
And they brought them down to the point where it was a combination of these drugs, some in syrup form, then tablet form. This is the progression of how it is people fight with something that they know. You keep improving on it. But as for the adverse effects of nevirapine, the adverse effects of ARVs, believe me, there is no ARV that doesn't have adverse effects.
And it just looks, it's something that
so
definitely
what then
needs
does
to...
this? So this is not alarming?
No. That is why I'm questioning the reporting of it. If you told me the drugs had expired, then I would say
would be different.
We have a problem here.
But then if the ministry says we will no longer use these particular drugs, right, by the end of 2019, and then in 2021
what did they stop using it for? Because NASCOP, which is part and parcel National AIDS Control Program, if they are saying in a statement, I'm reading what is being spoken of here. They claim nevirapine was released in what is used as a prophylaxis for children born to HIV positive mothers who are still breastfeeding. So, same, an arm of the Ministry of Health that deals specifically with HIV. And that is the statement that they're issuing. So when you say they banned it how? Completely? It was not supposed to be used whatsoever? What did they say?
So it's a whole confusion here, because the story goes ahead to say that what was released were tablets and not syrups. Anyway, it's confusing.
Right.
And those that are raising the alarm here, including Nelson Otoma of the National Coordinator for the National Empowerment Network of People Living with HIV and AIDS, says we are surprised that the drugs are still in the warehouse after we were informed that they had been destroyed. It's better to wait for the right drugs than take toxic ones.
Look, this debate of whether the drug was in tablet form or syrup form is also still in debate, because those who flagged it off and those who sort of like were there to see the distribution of it say they were tablets, and then there's some people saying they're syrup. I mean, look, there is need for clarity in this particular discussion. Remember, there was need for clarity when these drugs were held at the port for the longest time, okay? They were released when the Ministry of Health promised to pay the duty that was required by KRA. Department to department, within government, it could be done. In this particular case, there's still need for further clarity. Okay?
Yeah, it's getting to understand, because when you go ahead and say toxic drugs being distributed, that is seriously
Yeah,
alarming.
but this headline, look, do you really think that if you take malarial tablets and you don't take the drugs that's prescribed, they won't be toxic? They will be toxic.
It's very alarming.
Even Panadol, if you take them as though you're drinking water, it will be toxic.
It's 14 to 7. Time for a quick break. We'll look at other headlines.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
All right.
Right. So, of course, yesterday we heard that veteran journalist Philip Ochieng passed on yesterday, last evening. He died at the age of 83. Quite famous as a literary genius when it did come to his journalism. He's a celebrated linguist and had a very popular column in The Nation for very many years. He passed away in his Awendo home in Migori County after having battled pneumonia for some time. Survived by 4 daughters and a son. His wife had passed away a few years ago, and he had relocated to his Awendo home in March this year. He's known for his mastery of the literary word, and he had retired from The Nation, where he worked for several years, and he was publishing a weekly column in the Sunday Nation known as Mark My Word. So it's a blow, it's a loss
May he rest
to
in peace,
the journalism
Philip
fraternity.
Ochieng.
Yes.
Oh, yes.
May he rest in peace, for sure.
Yes, indeed.
But
America,
if I may
go
just
ahead.
say this of
Yes.
significance, one of the things that perhaps is a hallmark of the lives of pillars like Philip Ochieng are the people they have mentored over the years.
Yes.
And the people who, without his efforts, would not have been journalists or would not have risen to the heights that they did. One such individual is a gentleman who was actually, should we say, the chief editor in this particular media house and in The Nation, one Mr. Odindo.
Joseph.
Yes. I know this because it is he himself who informed me that it was Philip Ochieng who actually steered him in the direction of journalism. Yes.
He was a giant.
Yes.
Yep.
A giant in the media circles.
That's for sure.
May he rest in peace.
I mean,
America is pleading with Kenya not to close the Dada refugee camp.
2 weeks have not passed.
Kenya had said, Dada and Kakuma, we are closing, and there is no negotiation about this.
That was supposed to be 2 weeks from the announcement, though.
Yes,
Okay.
the UN High Commissioner for Refugees has been quoted. He's actually touring the DRC and those areas, and he's saying, we've had a conversation with Kenya. They have legitimate concerns that they're raising. What is happening is that they have agreed not to close these camps, but we need to come up with a plan of what happens next. Yesterday, U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken was making a virtual tour of Kenya.
Yes.
So he had a conversation with President Uhuru Kenyatta, and he reiterated his government's support for Kenya's refugee protection, security, and health. A statement from State House acknowledged that refugee situation, human rights, health, and climate change were additional issues raised during the meeting, which centered on trade and investment. So they had this conversation, and U.S. says, okay, guys, we're going to look at what needs to happen here in terms of you guys and the concerns that you're raising about these 2 giant refugee camps. Don't close them. We will talk. We will talk.
What are the issues really?
Security, the environmental degradation, and all those others.
And more to the point, you see, refugee camps, I think Kenya has complained for the longest time that they've considered them a breeding ground for terrorists.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, for them to exist, there has to be support. And we've had those refugee camps for the longest time, haven't we?
Yes.
Okay. I cannot say that the Kenyan government doesn't have a legitimate concern. They do. But again, from a humanitarian perspective, not everyone in that camp is a terrorist or a budding terrorist or a would-be terrorist.
Yeah.
And by the way, one of the things that I found strange when talking to somebody who works in those camps, you would be surprised at the mix and match of the people from this continent who are in our camps. You would think they come from one particular place. No. You have people in those camps who even come from Central Africa, some from even Southern Africa, some from even Western Africa. It's amazing.
It is. And I think, oftentimes we look at the stories of refugees being taken into Western European countries. But Kenya, I believe, on that index, Kenya, I believe, is the second in the world of countries who take in refugees and house them, as it were. So yes, the concerns are valid. And when they say that they will come up with a solution or they will come up with something to do, it's multi-layered. What are you going to do then about those terrorism concerns and a breeding ground for terrorism? What are you going to do about those security concerns? Because I believe it is from there, because this is not the first complaint that Kenya has had, or this is not the first time that Kenya has asked that these camps be closed. It's not the first time. And I believe those concerns are becoming more and more. So something needs to be done. And to hear that the US already do something about it, well, we'll see, we'll hear.
Yeah. What's happened? Even the last time, there was an entire program on relocation of some of those refugees. And many of them, hundreds of thousands, actually went back to Somalia. That very well managed program. Now, others still came back into the country. From South Sudan, others have come into the country. From other countries in the region. So, it's a big story.
It is.
It's a big story.
Can I tell you what's happening with matatus in the city?
Yes.
All right. So the NMS yesterday took the first step of decongesting the city when it conducted a test run on the newly created Green Park Terminal, as we had been reporting. The exercise that was conducted what was formerly the Lunar Park from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. saw all public service vehicles from select routes drop and pick passengers at the terminal. The test run, which led to a traffic snarl-up in the city, surprise, surprise, is expected to be carried out for the next 2 weeks. So we will see this over the next 14 days, between 6 and 9 a.m. All PSVs from Gong, Langata and Mombasa roads were diverted to the terminal's drop-off sections with the help of NMS officials and NTSA officers and the traffic police. Passengers were forced to walk to their destination within the central business district. The most affected areas were from Mlolongo, Ngong, Rongai and Pipeline, as they were caught off guard by the abrupt changes. So people were frustrated, and this was not announced for a lot of people ahead of time. So they were kind of shocked as to where they were supposed to go. What they're trying to do, the NMS, at the end of the day, what they're trying to do is decongest traffic within the CBD. But this means that, if you're coming from one part of town and you're going to pick up your vehicle going to another part of town, that you must then walk across town or walk a further distance, which is not
still the same case. If you think about it,
you still have to walk to railways, right?
Railways, yes, you'll walk to railways. Before that, there was the whole issue of Mudhurwa bus terminus. People were walking from Mudhurwa bus terminus to try and go to Upper Hill. That's where you walk, and you've alighted a matatu at Mudhurwa. The decongestion of the CBD, as currently viewed, may be a good thing, but I think it's like they've said before, it will be supported by other programs.
Right.
For example, the introduction of those BRT buses. So here you are, you arrive at this bus terminus, but at the same place that you will find a bus to go to Upper Hill, to go to Westlands, to go to Parklands, to Ridgeways. If it's not that, then you have to walk from there to go all the way to Old Fire Station to pick a Ridgeways matatu.
The thing we do not have an absence of are planners who can actually bring about the sanity we're talking about. If you talk to a planner, man, when they explain to you what needs to be done, it's like music. It's like
great.
A symphony.
You're living in that place already.
Yes. They know. All these things we're saying, they know, they understand. And this county has a department that deals with nothing else but that.
Yep.
The government, national government, has a ministry. That's what they deal with. So you cannot tell me that it is not possible to actually implement, not find. The solution, I'm sure, exists somewhere in the archives to implement something that would actually make or decongest the city. Yep. I don't think that it doesn't exist.
It definitely does. Because if you think about it, so the whole idea was have Mudhurwa bus terminus on one end, have this one at what's it called now? Green Park.
Yes.
Green Park at the old railway Golf Club or Uhuru Park. Then the other one is you need to have a connection.
Yeah, there
You
should
alight-
be a connection.
There has to be.
You alight a matatu at Muthurwa, you board another bus that just connects you to the next terminal.
Yeah, more developed.
Even airports have that.
More developed systems have what you call a tram.
Yes.
So it takes you then from, one
Point
spot
A
to the point A to
next.
point B. Intercity trams work like magic, but hey, like you said, if it's not planned properly, then we have a
Oh
problem.
no, it's planned properly, but the discussion is always the same discussion we keep talking about. There are those who are asking the question, okay, so how exactly are we going to benefit from this? And until they come to an understanding on how they're going to benefit, it will not happen.
It will be a game back
Yes.
here and forth. A story here is reminding me that I need to do something. Huduma cards lie uncollected. At least 240,000 Nairobi residents are yet to collect their Huduma number cards. Starehe Deputy County Commissioner Flora Moroa said 43,000 of the 286,000 cards received in Nairobi had been collected. Starehe Sub-County received 13,000 of them, but only 3,000 and something had been collected. I am one of those who have not collected their Huduma cards, actually. And that's why I'm saying this one has reminded me. I received an SMS. Went
Got an
registered-
SMS?
You did?
Went registered for Huduma.
Before the SMS from Ministry of Health?
This one came last year in December. First, I received an SMS telling me click on this link and choose where you'd like to collect your Huduma card.
And you clicked?
I clicked on link. I said I want to collect it in Westlands. A couple of months later, in February, I received another SMS telling me go to Westlands DO's office and pick your Huduma card.
Did you go? No.
Sinilisao.
Let me ask the question, what about those who never registered? What happens to them?
Those ones? Committee.
Very unlikely.
Are you one of them?
I did not register for Huduma number, so I do not. So these problems that Eric has about collecting a Huduma card, I don't have them.
You don't have them, huh?
Yes.
You see, now we have digitized land operations.
So we say.
You have a plot of land somewhere in Nairobi you want to sell. Come
So
on,
we say.
Huduma number. Soon.
Go.
Wewe nje.
Meaning, can I say quickly?
Yes.
New system promises to get rid of land grabbers and brokers. So yesterday, the president launched...
And those
this-
without Huduma card.
Those without Huduma number cards.
Like people you know.
People I know. Somebody can be called Siti Muhaha. Anyway, the era of missing files, misplaced title deeds, and disinheritance by total strangers is poised to end following the migration of all land ownership documents to the digital system. The president toured the data center ahead of the launch of the National Land Information Management System yesterday. And basically what we're looking at now is that certain things will not happen anymore. No paperwork.
Yes, but
It's
others
all
will,
digitized.
others will also happen which didn't happen before.
What?
Like you'll be told the system has broken down.
So you have to wait now.
You go down. So you can do absolutely nothing. Nothing.
Anyway.
And engineers are working hard to restore the services.
On the squeaky shiny side of things, the digital system has been built as the solution to land fraud, the punishing queues and long waits that people seeking land services in Nairobi are subjected to. For those things now with this system will be a thing of the past.
Very good. We'll have a we should look for these people at the Ministry of Lands who executed this and ask them all these questions. How many redundancies do you have? System down? Is there another system that will be up? Do you need to go now and register, create an account with the Lands Ministry if I had already registered an account with eCitizen? Is that one and the same? Do
you need my Huduma number?
Do you need a Huduma number? That one I can tell you, City, for sure. Yes. Good morning. It's 7 a.m.
Spice up your life. SpiceFM, Nakuru. Traffic.
Okay, so it's slow on Mombasa Road, that's for sure. And we had seen that it had built up right around the SGR, moving towards General Motors, but looking a little bit better now. Okay, so let's take a look then also on Thika Road, coming into the city centre. It's a bit slow. As we get to the Pangani underpass, it'll take some time to get out of that one. Okay, there was an accident. Let's go back to Mombasa Road. There was an accident on Mlolongo this morning, and it seems that it was because of the construction contractor. So somebody has unfortunately overturned, and it's going to take some time to get rid of, or rather to clear that area. The bypasses, eastern, southern, looking pretty good in terms of what you can use. That's not going to cause too much of a problem. Others then are complaining about some roads that cannot be traversed because of the weather situation. But apart from that, it doesn't look too bad. Let's keep an eye on things. For now, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room.
After 7 a.m. This is Kenya's biggest conversation. Thank you very much for tuning in. We are on to the second hour, and we're now live on KTN Home as well for the next 2 hours. In addition to being live on SpiceFM and online, SpiceFM KE, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, www.spicefm.co.ke. CT, today's proverb.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Cause and effect. Okay.
Reputation lost.
Kingdom go.
Up in smoke.
Reputation go, kingdom go.
Yes, that sounds poetic.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, it even rhymes. Go, go.
Go, go.
Oh, wow, okay.
Hey, okay. Big news this morning is what came out of the steps of the Supreme Court and headquarters of the judiciary yesterday, when the Judicial Service Commission emerged and they said that they had arrived at a nominee for the position of Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya following the interviews that took place on the previous 10 days, concluding on Friday last week. And they said that Lady Justice Martha Koome of the Court of Appeal is their nominee for position of Chief Justice, and they forwarded that name to the President for the next course of action. Now, the nomination of Martha Koome to the position of Chief Justice brings in very many firsts, and that's what is all over the headlines. Number one, if she becomes the Chief Justice, Lady Justice Philomena Mwilu is the Deputy Chief Justice. Then we have Chief Justice and Deputy Chief Justice, who are both women for the first time in Kenya. In addition, of course, to being the first woman Chief Justice in Kenya. In addition to talking about the next phase of the judiciary, following the retirement of Justice David Maraga, now ushering in a new era, let's work with the assumption that Martha Koome will actually be confirmed and be appointed and sworn in as Chief Justice of the Republic. What does this mean to the judiciary? Is it a new phase? Is it a continuation of the system? Is it a status quo? Do we expect to see some radical changes in terms of the direction and thinking of the judiciary? She will be the chair of the Judicial Service Commission, president of the Supreme Court. What are we likely to see? What did she say during her interviews that she would like to see done in the judiciary, for example, on several things? On the matter of backlog of cases, she said, this is a problem and it needs to be solved immediately. Back then we were few, but somehow we managed. Now we are many, but we cannot manage. What needs to happen is for every judge to have their own docket. We need a case management system. This is a solution that she said she'd propose for dealing with the backlog of cases. The dilemma of the 41 judges who are yet to be appointed by the president. This must be resolved through negotiations, she said. We're independence as judiciary and nobody should attempt to take its dependence. Its independence. Therefore, when the right hand doesn't agree with what the left hand is doing, the body suffers, and that is Kenyans. When I look at the judiciary, we were interdependent as far as delivery of service is concerned. Where do we come together? We will hold regular meetings with the executive and the legislature to end the standoff. We must discuss the issues of appointment of the 41 judges with the president, find out where the problem is, and resolve it. This is assuming that the president is going to give her the audience that he denied Justice Maraga, according to Justice Maraga, right? So a number of things that she said that she'd like to do, she'd like to see done, she'd like to see happen. The question that I also asked, when we talk about the 41 judges who were nominated by the Judicial Service Commission, who ought to have been appointed by the president, who haven't been appointed by the president yet, despite court cases, court orders, is there a likelihood that the president sits on this one? And then what?
Well, if he does, then what, really? That's the question. If he does, then what?
Because as he had done in the past, what happened? Was there any kind of earth-shaking, rattling kind of movement because of the fact that he had not appointed?
Yes, there
Did
was.
anything change as a result of it?
Yes.
What?
Justice was denied to the citizens of Kenya.
Is that a change from what it was before?
It's a serious change.
It became a very big policy
question. It was still being denied
question.
Previously, right?
No. With the appointment of those new judges, this was likely to change because it would fast-track that process of justice being provided. And the moment that that was denied, then essentially we rolled back time.
Justice was not being provided. And so that is why the appointment of these 41 judges was being requested. They were not appointed. Justice was still not being.
No, it was worse. It was worse. It was worse.
Denial of justice was worsened.
They just continued.
Yes, it was worsened. It was worsened. Because if you're talking about crime, are we saying that crime in this country is lessening? Is it increasing? Or is it static? What is it? By the time a request was made for these number of judges, it isn't just that we had issues that needed to be dealt with, but the truth is we had backlogs. Okay? So you deal with the backlog, then you deal with what's happening on a daily basis. The situation did not remain static. It got worse.
The Standard has a story by Kamau Muthoni, who says they tried reaching the nominee Chief Justice yesterday. Her phone was very busy. Our conversation was short when we got through to her. She assured us all was well for judiciary and the country. These are her words. You are in safe hands, and I thank God that you prayed for me. Words of CJ nominee Martha Karua. Martha Koome, I beg your pardon. Let's bring in a constitutional lawyer, Kamodo Weganjo, to look at... it's okay. To look at the new phase of the judiciary. If Martha Koome is appointed and sworn in as the next Chief Justice. Good morning, Kamodo.
Morning, Eric and team. How's everybody?
Doing
well, very well, thank you, Kamodo.
I'm very well, yeah, thanks.
Very good. Now, Kamodo, let's work with the assumption that the Justice Koome actually gets appointed and sworn in as the next Chief Justice. Does this usher in a new phase in the judiciary, in your opinion?
I wouldn't say so much a new phase as was a new phase in the Justice William Mutunga days. But it continues the process of constitutionalization of the judiciary and the creation of a strong institution that I think has sometimes struggled, particularly in the last tenure of Justice Maraga, not because Justice Maraga had competence issues, but particularly because of the very unfortunate relationship between the judiciary and the executive. One hopes, because this is the thing that has made the judiciary not be as effective as it could have been, which led to cuts in funding for the judiciary, it led to the non-appointment of the now 40 judges. So one hopes that what we had started in the Justice Mutunga days in terms of a total renew and re-engineering of the judiciary will continue under Justice Martha Koome. But I think one of the things to say is that in terms of capacity, in terms of competence, in terms of integrity, in terms of substance, in terms of sobriety, she obviously is one of our best judges. One can say she's our best, but she's one of our best. If you had not even been interviewing and you are looking for a judge within the judiciary, she would definitely have been one amongst your top 5. In fact, I can almost say that most people who listened to her during the interview hoped against hope that she would be appointed, but it didn't look like, when you looked at the possible permutations, the handshakes, the fact that the current DCJ is a lady, most people had written her off, even though they agreed that in terms of the interviewees, she's one who came out the best. And this is not just about the interview. Justice Martha Koome has a history. So in a sense, yes, there's a new thing in terms of approach. I am sure it's going to be different probably from Justice Maraga's approach. But the newness of the judiciary was already, reinforced by the Constitution. So what she does is to ensure that now those constitutional provisions now have faith in terms of implementation. Yeah.
Kamova, do you see then with those things that you mentioned, sobriety and, being extremely focused as an individual, and then the issues that the judiciary had been facing more recently than not, do you see then these attributes that she does have would then be able to go in the direction of solving some of these perennial issues?
I think she has the capacity. From the time when I started practice in the late 80s, mid-80s, late 80s, Martha Koome and a group of hers were the most active lawyers within the then very vibrant law society, which was seeking the pushing for the second liberation. One of the things I remember about her is she was your ultimate consensus builder. She's very firm, but she's your ultimate consensus builder. And one prays and hopes that she'll use those skills, which I'm sure she has improved in her times as a senior judicial officer, to help move this process. I have said, and I've said this before, that one of the things that unfortunately Justice Maraga missed is the recognition that he's not just called upon to be a good judge and a good jurisprudent and a good administrator of the judiciary. One of his most important roles is to ensure that the relationship between himself and therefore the institution of the judiciary and the other two arms of government operates efficiently, and effectively. And that calls for very special skills, negotiation skills, people relation skills, so that the institution plays its role as one of the arms in the governance system. I think if you fail to do that, however good you are as a judge, however much of a person of integrity you are, the judiciary suffers, because these are our realities, that you need to move these three institutions in the same direction as much as possible. Now, of course, in the nature of things, there will be disagreement. There are times when the judiciary will make decisions that the government will not support, and that is only natural, it's only fair. But I think if the relationships were reasonable and were well managed, we wouldn't need to have the sort of push and pull that was there before. And you can compare that with Justice Mutunga's season. William Mutunga was, in quotes, an activist in the sense that he had very strong progressive views, but he still managed to maintain fairly good relations with the executive, even though the judiciary even then were making decisions willy-nilly against the executive. But somehow he was able to manage that relationship a lot better, a lot more pragmatically, which unfortunately suffered in this season. And maybe there are very many other factors behind that failure. I don't want to place that squarely on
I'm glad you haven't done that, because I was going to ask you that, because I was going to say, yes, William Mutunga did a sterling job, but he had a different president he was working with.
Yeah.
And yes, there are things Justice Maraga may have done, but surely the dispensation that Maraga is working is also a different one. And is it to be desired that, or are we to say, judging from what we saw, that his actions were in essence not, should we say, geared towards ensuring that the core function that his particular office was supposed to carry out was carried out. And in balancing it, surely, the part that is played by the other arms of government is also crucial. And if you look at our history has been for the longest time prior to the Kibaki government, we had a judiciary that was more or less part and parcel of the executive. So the movement away from it began with Justice William Mutunga, and in the era of Maraga, one could argue we had a government that seemed to have been clawing back gains that had been made during that period. So there was going to be conflict either which way, whether Maraga did what he did.
The biggest diplomat on earth.
Yes, there was going to be conflict. So long as one wanted to follow the dictates of the law and to do it as they should, there was going to be conflict. Now, let me ask the question. For instance, the issue of the 40 judges. If you have an executive that has the interests of the people at heart, how does the good relationship with the Chief Justice come into play?
Now, I don't want this to be an analysis and whatever.
Oh, don't worry, Kamoda. Amdal is making it that. So
yes. But the reason being that the good judge is not there to give us their perspective. But let me say this: when you come into office as the head of the judiciary, whose independence is already constitutionally assured, you're no longer fighting the fights we had in the 90s. We have a place where your funding is assured, your appointive process is assured, at least your nomination process is assured. You must also take the time to also understand who you're working with, both in the legislature and in the judiciary and in the executive, and you must understand then how to manage those. And that is, leadership is about not working with good people. Is managing to work with all manner of people, with whom you are required for your institution to succeed to work with. And I think there are skills that would have been used differently that would have made it easy. I'm not sure that, one can then say if 1, 2, 3 was done, then this would have been guaranteed. But I think there are certain things that could have been done differently. I would think that where the rain, and I know this will be a very controversial issue, one of the places where the rain started beating us is even in the nullification of the election. And don't forget that before that time, the relationship between the judiciary and the executive was fairly manageable. Was if looking back, if you were to honestly, review the process that led to the nullification of the election, I think the responsibility of a prudent judiciary is to ask not just the legal questions, but you must also ask the economic questions, you must ask the social questions, you must ask the political questions. I think, in my view, that the judiciary was so concerned with the technical legal issues that they failed to understand that an election process is also a political process, and that when you make a decision of that nature, what it does is that it places the executive in a natural area of contestation with yourselves at a point when your legs are still fairly are not, your foundation are not strong enough, and you pick a battle that you may not be able to finish. Now, if it was based on substance, on fundamental reasoning, if you're able to say that if you nullify this election, the result, because of what you found out, the results could have been different, then yes. But I think some of those decisions, that's what I'm talking about sometimes, there's a level of recklessness, and that therefore then pushed the executive to the point where it considered the judiciary an enemy that needed to be fought. And I'm just saying there's some of those things, looking back, that could have been managed differently. The issue of one of the issues that arose about the advisory opinion that was given about the dissolution of parliament. Again, there are certain processes that required, a little more consideration, because some of those steps are then perceived by some in the executive to be a reckless fight against the executive, as opposed to pushing the rule of law. So I'm just saying that there are certain things, in my view, that needed to be managed differently. History will judge Justice Maraga positively or negatively, but I think there are certain skills that I think the Justice Martha Koome brings on the table that I think will be more helpful, not so much so that they agree with the executive. There will be times to disagree, but that when there's a disagreement, it is understood that the judiciary is purely playing its role as an adjudicator, as opposed to, this is a contestation between two arms of government as to who, will be able to carry the day. And that is a question of nuancing. It's a question of perception, and it's a question of, pragmatic management of leadership. But I'm sure these are contested positions, but I think it could have been that different. Finally, you raised, my brother, the issue of the 40 judges. I think it's unfortunate that the executive refused to appoint judges who had been appointed through a process that is provided for in the Constitution. The executive is represented in the JSC, significantly.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that we got there. It was absolutely unnecessary, and one hopes that we are not going to have to go. But I think what had happened is that by that time, this was more now a flexing of muscles between two institutions. Having said that, of course, some issues were raised about whether some of the judges had issues. One would have hoped that those issues would have been brought up in the interview process. If they were or if they were not, if opportunity was not given, then I think there's a problem in the process that needs to be looked at. But I do think that there are certain issues that needs to be resolved. If, by the way, and this is the last point I'll make on the matter, I, at this point, do not even see why we take judges of the High Court and judges of the Court of Appeal, who are purely senior civil servants doing an education job, through the process of appointment by the chief executive. In my mind, once JSC appoints those people, and if we are to do amendments that will help the judiciary, once the JSC appoints those people, those judges, they should actually just continue to work. When
just
it comes
a promotion.
to justice and the deputy chief justice, then it makes sense. Because
so you're saying the JSC shouldn't have oversight?
No. I'm saying the JSC should just appoint.
Yeah.
I don't see why we have to go to the executive.
Actually, just promote them.
Yeah, just promote them, and they continue working. The place where the executive should be coming in is the chief justice and the deputy chief justice, because they play also a quasi-political role.
Okay.
But the other people who just dispense justice, it doesn't make sense why we go through that process. But that is an issue of reform as we continue to improve the judiciary.
So finally then, Kamodo, as we conclude this conversation with you this morning, what do you see in coming days? What are the next steps? Now the JSC has forwarded the name to the president. What should we expect in the coming days?
I expect that Justice Martha Kome's appointment will be approved by Parliament. Obviously, if there are issues that can be raised before the House that are substantive, then let those be raised, and let the National Assembly make a decision. I'd be very surprised if that was not done as quickly as possible. There's a huge docket that awaits the good judge. That issue of the dispensation, the access to justice question, in terms of the numbers of judges, most of the courts are not functional. The Environmental and Land Court, the Court of Appeal, these courts are really struggling. And so part of her immediate responsibility is to ensure that is resolved as quickly as possible in whichever manner, so that those judges are sworn in on the day after she's sworn in. Then, of course, she needs to continue the work of expansion of the judicial system to ensure that people have access, across the country. She needs to ensure that the whiff of corruption, which is starting to creep back into the judiciary, is completely eradicated. Fortunately for her, she comes with a fairly clean slate, so she should be able to give leadership in that respect. And then she does need to resolve an issue that was clear from the interviews, which is the sort of contestation on jurisprudence between particularly the Court of Appeal and the Supreme Court, and sometimes the inconsistencies in the Supreme Court itself in its decisions. I think there's work that needs to be there to ensure that the courts and its decisions are predictable, and so she has a lot of work to do. She needs to work on the relationship with the executive, but at the same time to ensure that the judiciary is not subservient. And the reason why it will not be subservient is that short of the sort of issues that arose with the appointment of judges, the independence of the judiciary as an institution is constitutionally assured.
Yeah.
What needs to happen is to ensure that independence, which is assured by the Constitution, finds expression in the day-to-day activities of the judiciary. And the issue of funding, it's very unfortunate that Parliament has chosen to punish the judiciary sometimes by denying it adequate funding, so that you have an institution that has judges, and judicial officers all over the country, in Longalani, everywhere, being allocated 15 billion shillings, and Parliament gets 30 billion shillings with 400 odd members and sitting in Nairobi. There's something fairly unjust and inconsistent. And I think what Parliament fails to understand is that it is not the judiciary it is punishing. It is not Justice Maraga. It is even on the appointment of judges. The failure to appoint judges does not affect Justice Maraga or the judiciary at a personal level. It is the citizens who pay the price, who are very, very heavy price. And I think that is something that Parliament and the allocators of resources must understand. When they do not allocate reasonable resources, it means people stay longer in police cells because you don't have judicial officers. It means that judgments take longer. It is Kenyans who pay the price. So managing, and that's what I'm saying, being able to manage that so that the days of contestation are over until it becomes absolutely necessary. And sometimes it might become.
Yep.
I think that is really going to be what will determine whether she ends up being a remarkable Chief Justice that we remember fondly.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, constitutional lawyer Kamodo Waiganjo. We look forward to seeing the first 100 days, especially of the Chief Justice Martha Koome, once she goes through the entire nomination and appointment process and getting sworn in. Asante sana, Judge, lawyer. 27 minutes after 7, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. In the next half hour, we'll be speaking with a female activist, feminist, lawyer, writer, policy analyst, one of those that we spoke to earlier, and she was saying, why not? We should have a female Chief Justice. Now we have a nominee female Chief Justice. We'll hear from her. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
The realest and craziest couple are now on your screens. Terrence and Chebi are bringing you top celebrities and trendsetters on Thursday Night Live. It's double the fun and double the laughter every Thursday at 10 p.m. on KTN Home.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah!
You're listening to Spice FM. 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is Spice FM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial star 550 star 2 hash to read the Nairobian e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line and stay up to date. The hottest talk of town with no additional charges.
As the Kenyans are roared into the home straight here. 4 Kenyan queens have lit up this balmy Bahamian night.
It's where the rivalry is unmatched, where the soul meets the track, where the great are distinguished from the good. An arena where the records are broken.
A new world record. It's not just been beaten, it's been obliterated.
A stage where the legends are born. For Team Kenya, the Olympics is more than just a sport. It is our tradition. It's an event that has put Kenya on the roadmap. The Standard Group lets you watch every minute and every action live in the 2020 Tokyo Olympics. Because we live for Team Kenya. We live for the game. At Standard Group, sports lives here.
The weather with Spice FM.
All right, rain showers in certain parts of Nairobi this morning at 18, highs of 25. We'll see highs of 24 in Nyeri, rain showers at 16. It's 16 and partly sunny in Nakuru, going to highs of 26. Partly sunny conditions in Eldoret at 14, highs of 24 and lows of 13. 28 will be the high in Kisumu. It's partly sunny at 20. 19 degrees and partly sunny conditions in Kakamega, highs of 27 today. Highs of 31 in Mombasa, where it is raining. It is raining in Malindi as well. Rain showers at 27, highs of 30. And 21 in Kampala. It is raining here to 25 and lows of 19, and partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam, where it's 25, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Clear conditions in Johannesburg at 17 degrees, highs of 24, and Lagos, mostly clear conditions this morning at 27, highs of 33 and lows of 26, and light rain in Kinshasa at 24, highs of 33 and lows of 24.
Spice up your life.
All right, slow Mombasa Road, rather on Langata Road today, coming towards the Timor roundabout. And up ahead is because of that part of the road that's not too clear. So because of pothole issues, and so people are moving a lot slower than normally. So watching out for that one. Coming off of Mombasa Road, it's also a bit slow going towards the Nyeri Stadium roundabout. That's to be expected and will continue like that for some time. The going towards Outer Ring using the Eastern Bypass, that works for folks. It also does coming from the Northern Bypass as well as the Southern Bypass. Likoni Interchange, you'll have a little bit of traffic there as you try to connect with the Southern Bypass, but you should be all right. Let's look into industrial area just a little bit. Coming then towards Jogo Road, it's slow, it's moving. Getting towards Landis into the CBD, you'll get there in good time. SpiceFM KE, that's how you can get in touch on Twitter. Text on 40127. Keep it moving this morning.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right.
27 minutes.
94.4 Spice FM.
This is Kenya's biggest conversation, the Situation Room on Spice FM online, Spice FM KE, YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter, and on KTN Home. We are talking about the nominee, Martha Koome, Justice, Judge of the Court of Appeal, who's now been nominated by the Judicial Service Commission to become Kenya's next Chief Justice. Name forwarded to the President. What's expected now is the President to forward this to the Parliament, and then Parliament to conduct its vetting. And if they approve, then she becomes appointed and sworn in as the next Chief Justice, becoming the first woman to head an arm of government in the history of Kenya. It's a big thing. And if you look at then what also it means that we have a woman, we are likely to have a woman Chief Justice, a woman Deputy Chief Justice in the name of Philomena Mwilu, a woman Chief Registrar of the Judiciary in the name of Anne Amadi, a woman Vice Chair, well, currently the one who's chairing the interviewing panel in the Judicial Service Commission is Professor Olive Mugenda, a woman Registrar of the Judicial Service Commission, Wilfrida Mokaya, a woman Registrar of the Supreme Court, Esther Nyayaki. In the Court of Appeal, the acting president, now that Justice William Ouko is going through these interviews, the acting president of the Court of Appeal is Lady Justice Wanjiru Karanja. Deputy Registrar of the Court of Appeal is Lorraine Ogombe. In the High Court, the principal judge in the High Court is Lydia Chode. Registrar of the High Court, Judy Omange. Presiding judge in the Criminal Division of the High Court, Lady Justice Jessie Lesit. The presiding judge in the Judicial Review Division of the High Court, Justice Pauline Nyamoya. The presiding judge in the Anti-Corruption and Economic Crimes Division of the High Court, Lady Justice Mombi Ngoge. Employment and Labor Relations Court, the presiding judge, Lady Justice Maureen Onyango. In the Environment and Land Division, acting registrar, Rose Makungu. In the Magistrates Courts, the assistant registrar, Caroline Kabusho. Inter-Tribunals, the acting registrar of tribunals, Anne Asuga. The chairperson of the PP.
Which one?
Public Procurement Division Disputes Tribunal. Public Procurement Disputes Tribunal. Dismas Nungo, Acting Registrar and Secretary of that tribunal. Rosalie Naganyo. Small Claims Court Registrar. Stella Nyeri. Directorates. The Director of HR and Administration, Dr. Elizabeth Kalei. Acting Director for Finance, Susan Oyatsi. Acting Director, Administration and Security Services, Angela Manyala. Deputy Director, Finance, Beatrice Kamau. Deputy Director, HR and Administration, Ruth Kiengo. Assistant Director, Civil Structural Engineering, Engineer Jen Kagiri. Head, Department of Public Affairs, Catherine Omboi. Head, Judiciary Library Services, Ruth Andiva. And we go on and on.
Is this not a wonderful thing?
And on, yes. Right? Even in the Council for Administration of Justice, the coordinator is Irene Omari. The manager of the Court Users Committees is Sylvia Yantet. Magistrates and Judges Association, the president is Justice Jackie Kamau. The vice president is Caroline Kendagor. We go on.
This is a good thing.
It's a good thing. Right?
It's a wonderful thing.
You feel good to hear this?
No, I'm delighted.
Why?
Brave new world. Look, by the time women get to any position of authority, of repute, my friend, they often have to outperform men. They often have to be infinitely better than all the men that were there in competition with them. Yes. So when they get there, rest assured, we have someone who actually deserves to be in that particular position that they are in.
It basically indicates that the judiciary, in terms of meeting the constitutional requirement of ensuring that there is proper gender balance, the judiciary has taken very many strides ahead, right? And also maybe brings in that whole justification for Justice David Maraga's, retired Chief Justice David Maraga's advice to the office of the president. Look, that parliament, constitution, parliament, hands tied. I am required to advise you to dissolve parliament. Let's bring in our guest. So we have a couple of minutes to discuss this with her. Marilyn Muthoni Kamuru is a feminist. She's a lawyer. She's a writer. She's a policy analyst. She's one of those who are speaking before the interviews began and saying, we support the women who have put themselves forward. We support their candidacy. And we hope that the Judicial Service Commission gives them a fair shot at becoming Chief Justice of the Republic and Judge of the Supreme Court. Marilyn, you must be very happy you bring me ear to ear this morning.
I'm extremely excited.
Clearly. What does this mean to the push, your push for greater gender representation and gender balance rather in our institutions?
I mean, that's important. But for me, what it actually signifies is, and I think we talked about this last time I was on, the trajectory that we were taking as a country, the quality of leadership, and how we'd really started to water this down. And so having a Chief Justice nominee with, over 30 years of experience, a large amount of it in public service within the judiciary, and across a range of courts, from family courts to environment and justice. And so having somebody with that kind of experience in this role, I think really bodes well for us as a nation. And in terms of just reestablishing a metric for leadership, for the credibility and the competence, as CT was talking about, of leaders, I think that's a really good step for us at a very important time.
When you say good, Marilyn, I want you to expound on it. Are you suggesting that perhaps because of the accomplishments that you have already mentioned, that we can expect that should the president ascend to the position of accepting Martha Koome as our next Chief Justice? Eric, you thought I was going to make the mistake as you. No, sorry. Martha Koome. Yes. Martha Koome. Okay. Do you think that we are in for a revolutionary time in the judiciary?
I think we're in a revolutionary time in Kenya. So, I think that we need to accept. I think that, we have remarkably young population. We have demands on us as a nation that we are unable to meet for various reasons. And all of that combined is creating a very transitionary and very rocky time. The judiciary has been on a transformational journey since, 2010, under Chief Justice Mutunga, continued under Chief Justice Maraga. So I think what we'd probably see perhaps actually after, with Chief Justice Kome, should she be confirmed by the National Assembly, would probably be even a bit of a settling in and really a solidification of the transformational agenda that's been occurring at the judiciary for some time now.
So, I mean, definitely the chance to be able to see and, the push for that clearly, as you talk about, is something revolutionary just in that announcement and that selection. Now, do you think that her being in this position will then prove the justification, or rather, what do you see her being able to achieve that will prove a justification for having a push for women being in this position?
So I'm going to be a radical feminist here and tell you that I don't necessarily expect that we're going to get better things from women. That's not why I'm an advocate for women generally. I'm an advocate for good people in great positions. And I think that we can expect great things from Martha Koome should she be confirmed as Chief Justice. And I think that we can see that based on her history of accomplishments. Every single station where she has served, she has made remarkable changes that are relevant to the station. So one of the things that I think is particularly impressive about Justice Koome is how localized her transformations tend to be. I think she spoke at her interview about how when she was in Kitale, she went to Kitale at a time when there were horrible relationships between the bench and the bar. And so that was her first order of business. And then, trying to depopulate and decongest the prisons. So she has a knack for going to a situation, looking at what is necessary, what is needed, what is immediate, and a very people-focused approach. And that I'm really excited about and looking forward to. I'm not running away from discussing her as a first female Chief Justice. I think for me, one of the things that's important is that my generation is the one that ends the generation of first. I want to stop talking about the first woman to do, the first woman to be. And I would like that to end in my generation because the world of possibilities is really what we want to create for people across it, because it will happen. I think Joe and CT are right. It is going to happen. It's inevitable. But we should not fan the flames. We should not give it credibility. We should evaluate the issue on the merits. And I think that's a struggle, that's a humanity struggle. And so we should be a little gentle with ourselves about the fact that it's going to happen. I think what we should be particularly concerned about is the weaponization. And by that I mean that they are this particular targeting that happens of women. I mean, we've seen it in National Assembly and the Senate, for instance, where women have been subjected to extraordinary amounts of violence and harassment, verbal abuse, emotional abuse, and just really being ostracized and marginalized at work. So we should be careful about that. We should be calling that out and holding people accountable, including criminally liable, should that be the case.
Let me ask this question. Even as we look at Martha Koome, she's the center of our attention today and is going to be for quite some time. Do you feel that perhaps a lot more is going to be expected of her than is actually humanly possible for her to achieve?
I think that might be the case. I think that's also the case because of where we are as a nation. I think, Kenyans want a lot from public service and public servants. And I think it's also coming on the backdrop of feeling neglected by, a government that has really fallen short in many areas. And so it is a difficult time for her to be assuming the helm of the judiciary. And we hope and trust that the legislature and the executive are going to understand how necessary it's going to be for the three branches of government to work together to deliver for Kenyans, because I do feel like the demands are up from Kenyans. There is and a lot more impatience as well.
Alongside this question, let me ask, do you think she's equal to the task?
Oh my God, absolutely. I have no hesitation in that at all. I think one of the things, and you mentioned this, CT, is
Are you saying I answered my own question?
Well, I'm saying that you are so prescient that you asked it and you hinted at the answer. That competent women, and actually, I'm writing a book, and one of the arguments I make is that really what we have had because of the struggle for women to ascend in institutions is hyper-competent women. It's a level of competence that is required to stand out in a field that generally does not see women as possible. So in order to be seen as possible, you've had to really outperform. And that's really been Martha Kome's history at the judiciary and in other places that she's worked. So I think she's more than equal to the task. I do think that there is nobody who accomplishes things alone, and it's going to be incredibly important that the Supreme Court as a court comes together and is really able to start providing some of the transformative jurisprudence that we need, that the judiciary as an administrative arm is also working consistently on some things that really matter to Kenyans, like, just can we get cases heard on time? Can we try and just make sure that people are out of the justice system within a reasonable amount of time so it's not interrupting and delaying lives and delaying healing for victims and survivors. So she's more than equal to the task, but we all have our parts to play.
How do you think she should chart her course in this with her abilities, which are clearly unquestioned? What would you think would be the important initial steps to take, taking into consideration all that's going on within the country and the judiciary?
Wow, I wouldn't presume to do that for her. And the reason I wouldn't is I think there's also some internal dynamics, and I think we saw that when we were witnessing the JSC interviews. There's some internal dynamics to the judiciary and at the Supreme Court that will also require some very diplomatic maneuvering. And I think that that's usually the first course for anyone who's coming into a position. And I think she hinted at this at her interview when she said, I think they asked her a question about what would you do within the first 30 days or 60 days, and she said, no. I don't have an agenda for the first 30 or 60 days. I need to come in and learn. And that's been her approach, as I said. She likes to have a feeling, a pulse for what is going on and what matters to the people who are there, right? As opposed to coming in and imposing an agenda. And so that's what I would expect would be her approach should she be confirmed. And I'm really hoping that she's going to be confirmed and confirmed quickly.
As we conclude then, Marilyn, what would you say to those who are calling for the opening of the servers, saying the JSC should tell us how she scored and how everybody else who participated in this particular interview scored?
Are the servers in France? I don't know.
Who knows?
Well, I don't know.
Right? I think that one of the things that we saw with this process, and I absolutely love, is how engaged the public was. And I think maybe Kenyans started to see, wait a second, interrogating potential leaders and interrogating them kind of hard makes a difference. We can see where people are just feigning confidence, but really can't have the competence or the content that requires them to execute a role. I think the challenge for JSC may be that this has not been part of what they had set out to do. But I do think that as the public, we should certainly demand that. And maybe going forward, what we would be asking for is we would like to see the public ranking. We would want to know why you picked a certain candidate over another candidate. Understanding, of course, the constitutional and legal requirements, which would also be there. I do think that that's something that's worth pursuing. I think the difficulty for JSC right now would be that the process that they laid out in their booklet, which is on their website, didn't provide for that, and so they might not be able to do that.
All right. Marilyn Muthoni Kamuru, thank you very much for speaking to us today. Marilyn is a feminist, she's a lawyer, she's a writer, she's a policy analyst.
Why don't you call me a constitutional lawyer too, Eric?
I don't know what you practice. I didn't know whether you practice criminal law, whether you're a criminal lawyer.
I actually don't practice, but you can be a constitutional lawyer without practicing.
Voila. So now that you have you've confirmed that, we shall add that.
Constitutional lawyer.
Is there anything else we should add?
there are many other things, but it's okay. I'll come back.
Okay.
Super.
5 minutes to 8 o'clock. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Time for us to take a quick break on KTN Home on SpiceFM. Online, we'll be back shortly.
.9 Spice FM, Mombasa.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFMKE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
The issue of how the JSC arrived at the decision to nominate Martha Koome as the preferred Chief Justice, I think it brings in that issue, or like Marilyn is saying, of the public interrogating the entire process end to end. How did you shortlist? How did you then go ahead to say that this is the one that has emerged as your preferred candidate? What did you consider?
I think it is an opportunity to make transparency a reality rather than just a discussion that is often shrouded in things that one doesn't understand. And it should go beyond this. When you have parastatal heads, when you have people who are going to have authority over people's lives, government agencies, there should be that particular transparency so that we know that there is no doubt. Because how then do we know? You say names were taken the president. Well, yeah, the names were taken the president, but what process did they follow before they got there? But what I've also found curious with this process, how is it that none of the judges who were in the Supreme Court vied for this particular position? Just a thought.
For which position?
Chief Justice. Are they prevented? Are they hindered? I mean, you're already a justice. Would it not be an aspiration if I'm already in the Supreme Court to actually ascend to the position of Chief Justice?
Or do they just not have the desire to bear that heavy responsibility on their shoulders? They're okay with where they are. They want to continue with that position.
I found it curious.
Maybe they're thinking, well, not yet time.
I'll have another opportunity in about 5 years or so.
Considering that very many things that you know will be looked at, like now the age of this current Chief Justice, 61 years, until retirement is 9 years. So
good.
Yeah, this one.
It's okay.
We can deal. Right? You don't want a Chief Justice who stays on for long. Well, that is what has so far been the kind of narrative. You don't want a Chief Justice who comes and stays.
But I thought the term of office was 10. And or can they go beyond the 10?
Retirement.
70.
So it's retirement that's the determining factor, not the length of your... Okay. Okay.
Otherwise, a 40-year-old would be appointed, and then you just know you'll retire at 50. When the Shambani, Kalimia, or do something else.
But when you retire as Chief Justice, does that mean you can't do something else?
You can do a lot.
You can do so much.
You can go look at elections somewhere in another country, like Justice Kriegler. You can go and chair some TJRC in Somalia. You can do quite a bit. You can write, you can teach, you can...
You can even practice
or you can
law.
do like what Justice Mutunga is doing. Reading, writing, having conversations, sparking conversations in communities, talking about the Katiba, keeping yourself busy. There's a lot that can be done. Are you considering this? Deep in thought, CT.
Pensive, quite pensive, CT. What's passing through behind those eyes?
It's thinking, what shall I do after 70?
Not really. I know exactly what I'm going to do. What, God willing, I will be able to do. It's not that. I am simply thinking that there are things that we, in the realm of perception, we consider to be good thoughts and good perceptions. But when you put them, or when you judge them against the reality of time and the reality of the times in which we live in, they may not make as much sense. Anyway, we can talk about this later.
Keep it right here. Kenya's biggest conversation continues. Yes, we have a Chief Justice nominee, Martha Koome. Next up is Parliament for public vetting, and then if she gets through that, she's sworn in as the next Chief Justice. Good morning. It's now 8 o'clock.
Spice up your life. 102.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
Check the group.
Okay, some traffic this morning on Mombasa Road. It's normal. I'm made to understand that across the city today, the traffic is just normal. Nothing major out of the way. Okay, so there's some hanging power lines going towards Blue Post. And that's making folks slow down. I would hope it would, because you don't want to ram into that. That could cause a catastrophe, and we're not ready to deal with that this morning. Okay, so please be very careful. And of course, PLC has been warned, or rather been given heads up about this, so they can come and raise them so that we do not have any problems as concerns that. All right, remember, on public service vehicles getting into the city today, you will not be going to railways. You will be going to the Green Park Terminal, at least until 9 o'clock. And then an hour after that, you'll go back to railways. So on public service this morning, that is what is public transport, rather. That is what is going on as we go through this 2-week transition period to see how it will work out. So bear with the NMS. They're trying to see how this will flow. Coming out of Westlands, Ngong Road, Langata Road, looking pretty good, guys. Coming from industrial area through towards Jogo Road, out to Landis Road, into the CBD. It's a bit slow, but it's manageable. And you can still keep a smile on your face in traffic. Let's see if that smile lasts past 9 o'clock. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Talk to us should you need to. Text on 40127.
This is the Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
2 minutes after 8, Kenya's biggest conversation continues. CT, today's proverb.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Was this a random one, or was it calculated?
No. I was looking at it. You see what? Perhaps I need to explain. Every time I look at proverbs and read about them, I write them down. Yes. So I have a long list of proverbs, and I even did them this week. Sometimes I change them. Not because I think that one proverb will make more sense, but it's just that it's preference.
Yeah.
But there are times, like this week, when I've chosen specific proverbs, because of the situations that we find ourselves in. I've said, I think this will be relevant to the situation.
To the times.
Yes, but most times, it's just something like, and the others I dismiss. Because I figure, no, this one...
This is not a proverb.
It's an interesting proverb to amuse myself with, but it's not something that I'm going to say out loud on radio.
Doesn't sound like a wise saying.
No, wise, in fact, it's derogatory. So I leave it aside. But I read it and I see it.
Okay.
But this particular one, I think if you were to even look at the simplest way of trying to interpret it, you will find that it can bear meaning on very many situations and circumstances. Start with asking yourself, what is it that are the building blocks of a good reputation? And then, what is it that people do that end up dismantling this tower or this edifice that you've put up that we refer to as a reputation? And then what happens when that reputation has been dismantled? Yes. Your reputation is part of what people see you as. So if it isn't there, then it also means that people will see you differently. And the difference here is not necessarily positive. If the reputation has a notch up, you'll be seen favorably. If
much expectations. It's not the first time such appointments have been made. Later, lots of disappointment witnessed. Nothing new, he says. Okay. Another one says, nothing. I expect nothing from her. Wow. All right. JSC has exercised gender balance to amuse the women's campaign beneath the planet. We might face incompetence and alliance affiliations from other systematic arms of government prior to political games. Well, all right. We expect the best from her, and that's what Solomon says. Ezra says that was a smart decision in law and a good negotiator between judiciary and executive, something the Chief Justice job desperately needed. Daniel Jorogo says he's currently listening to the song Woman Ruler by Lord Lara. Okay, well, I guess that's apt. Okay, quite some in terms of what people think. The women's agenda being fulfilled here by this, the female agenda rather, being fulfilled by this nomination.
These negotiation skills that she has, they are laudable. But the argument that, and Kamodo Waiganju spoke about it quite eloquently and put forward his case quite well, they need to be able to sort of like bring in a balance. Now, why must it heavily lean on the Chief Justice?
Actually, my thinking is, and I wanted to raise that as well when Kamodo was saying, why is the honors being given on the judiciary to behave?
Yes.
I think it's the executive also that.
Other arms of government that have been behaving very poorly.
Yes. Because you can't say, because of that ruling in 2017 that failed to factor in, just the judicial process, but also there's a political side of things and everything else. Fine. But also the executive, once you've jumped over that hoop, now behave.
It's called the law. See, this arm of government, that's their job. That's what they're supposed to do. And the executive doesn't give itself a very good marking or a score when it comes to a repeated situation where a law, a judgment is passed, and they proceed to ignore it. Now, so what does it tell us? It tells us that we have an executive that actually doesn't believe it should be held accountable. Or they think that they are not really supposed to be subjected to the laws that everybody else is subjected to.
Next up should be having that conversation with the next presidential candidates and asking them, how are you going to ensure that you as the head of executive
ensure that you have good relations
with the other two
arms of government. Yes.
Or even beyond that as head of state, you shall not allow politics of the day and your own emotions to dictate how you relate with the other arms of government.
Yes.
Because as head of state, you're head of everyone. You're head of all arms of government.
Especially those and even those who didn't vote for you.
Yes. Not just head of government. That is a conversation that's going to happen. And we'll wait and see. And we want to hear a lot more of what you think about the nomination of Martha Koome as the next Chief Justice of Kenya. Now, a showdown looms as MPs debate Bbi Bill. Page 14 of the Standard this morning. So, the Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs of National Assembly and the Senate came up with two reports, a majority report and a minority report. Now, the majority report said, look, this whole Constitution Amendment Bill, it's okay, but it has issues. The minority said it may have issues, but those are non-issues. Now, Parliament has been recalled to come in for 2 days to have a conversation and debate and vote on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. Yesterday, ODM was whipping members to support the bill following claims that two camps led by Siaya Senator James Orengo and lawyer Paul Mwangi had emerged. The National Assembly and Senate are expected to concurrently table the bill, even as claims emerge that Deputy President William Ruto could have infiltrated the Joint Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs and influenced members to poke holes into the bill. Surely. Allegation that some county assemblies passed an erroneous version of the bill resulted in the committee coming up with two reports, a majority and minority, with Muranga Senator Irungo Kangata abstaining. He says, my position on the BBI debate First, many friends that have died because of COVID-19 and many businesses closed due to the pandemic. Vaccines first. 15 billion shillings referendum cash enough for vaccines. Secondly, correct injustice visited upon Mount Kenya on constituencies distribution. Why Nyeri none and Kwale 4? He raises those issues. So this is coming up to Parliament today. Okay? We can see that there are these camps that have emerged. Senior Counsel James Orengo. Senior Counsel Okongo Omogeni. Senior Lawyer Otiende Amolo. Among those that have appended their signature on the majority report raising concerns about the bill. And then other members of this committee, including Nairobi Senator Johnson Sakaja and others, have come up with the minority report. And they said, well, yeah, what's all this drama?
What is the drama? And I'm asking myself, what is really the issue here? And that, because it would see, I'm really asking and really almost imploring and begging that the time for this kind of politicking and to make Kenyans think that there's an issue where there really isn't, and taking away the attention from focusing on the real issues over time has got to stop. For making, because look at what we're being shown now. All of a sudden, the showdown is looming. There's going to be drama. There are those people who believe that why are we spending this money on this bill, and we should be spending money on making sure that Kenyans are taken care of when it comes to COVID-19. Where were you when this conversation was being had by the majority of Kenyans in the first place? So made to seem as if suddenly politicians actually do care about the well-being or the wherewithal of Kenyans. Is that the case? Ask yourself, majority, minority report. What is the problem? Showdown. What is the real issue?
What's the issue?
What's the problem? Because I'm looking. If I do nitpicking, it's like picking at rice, and I'm asking myself, what's the problem? What is it?
The issues that they raise.
Don't want it. What's the problem?
The issues that they raise, for example, in this majority report, they're saying, look, it is okay for the proponents and the sponsors of the bill to come up with a bill and propose creation of 70 new constituencies. What they have an issue with is a part of the schedule that says this is where the constituencies shall be. And they say that job is not yours, that is a job of the IEBC. Now, when you go ahead and start even proposing where those constituencies are going to be, and your other part of the constitution says the IEBC has the role of establishing new constituencies based on various parameters. So what have you done? The other thing they're saying is, does Parliament have a role here really to amend this bill? Do we just allow a bill to go ahead? We can see clearly we are learned people. We are senior lawyers. We have dealt with the Constitution. We are looking at this thing and we can see there are blots. Do we just sit back and say, yeah, because of political expediency, because I belong to this party and the party position is yes to the bill, then I shall just sit back and say yes to the bill? Don't I have any moral obligation? Do I have any obligation or expectation in my public office to raise this issue and say, absolutely, there's something wrong here? And if I raise the issue, then where does it go from there? If I raise the issue and I'm a member of Parliament and part of my constitutional job as a member of Parliament is to legislate, can I amend this thing and put in the proper language that then would remove the poison and leave a good document? That's a whole debate back and forth. Does the Constitution allow Parliament to amend a bill that originates as a popular initiative bill to amend the Constitution? There's nowhere in the Constitution that it clearly says that Parliament can do this. The argument by the Senior Counsel is that there's nowhere in the Constitution that says we can't. That's one part. The other one is the whole politics of, okay, are we looking at the same document that was presented to the IEBC? Did all the county assemblies discuss and debate and vote on the same bill? Or did some county assemblies look at a different bill from what others were looking at? Did the National Assembly receive the same bill that the Senate received? Are we talking about the same document or are we talking about different documents?
Okay.
Now, when you see all those things in the water, right? There are tadpoles and
it's a menagerie of
algae
people's
and everything.
opinions and their desires and their likes and their wants, and then you throw in a dash of politics here and there. So because certain people have an issue, like for example, Senator Kangata talking about how come Kwale 4 and Nyeri only 1, it's obviously something that affects him directly. So then everybody who comes up with their argument has something that affects them directly in terms of their jurisdiction and representation when it comes to them being, a member of parliament. Then there's the other side where folks are going to ask you, when you were passing this thing with the fervor and the passion that you were, and that you were going around the country touting for it, were these things not taken into consideration? So at the very tail end of it now, when you see that this could affect you adversely politically, then now suddenly you have an issue with it. I have to ask, if these were pertinent issues, because it is not as though anything has changed, if these were pertinent issues, why were they not brought up at the genesis of this entire thing?
But even if you're going to be nitpicking, in all honesty, the discussion about constituencies, isn't it more than just saying so-and-so got 3 and I got 2 and so-and-so got 1? Shouldn't it be more robust? Should somebody not say, according to our constitution, according to our laws, the formation of a constitution is based on certain things, all right? Now, if you premise your discussion that and then you say, then why is it that this area that doesn't meet this criteria or has this number of constituencies and we who meet that criteria have? But when it's just, why are they getting more and why are we getting less? Okay, let us take the view that it was just a political decision and say, okay, why don't we ensure that there is further representation? Remember, for the longest time, people who come from the northern part of this country have said, you have an MP who is in charge of a really large area, okay? But the balance has been, it's not just the area that is considered, it's the population that is considered and other factors. It's a discussion that, in my mind, should always be ongoing and seeking to find a balance. Now, if you look at the Commission on Revenue Allocation, they have gone a long way in determining some of these things because they didn't wake up in the morning and just decide, okay, we are going to be giving County X this amount of money for this. No, they took a lot of details into consideration. So when now a political figure comes up and is poking holes and pointing fingers, one has to ask the question that you're asking. Okay, fine. You've complained, but what is the basis of your complaint? That really is my question.
Do you really feel that this complaint that you have made is actually going to stick, you're going to poke this balloon and it'll burst? Not necessarily. You know that. We heard from the same group of people that, we feel as if we don't have powers. We are not able to do anything. We're not able to move from here to there. Why would this situation be different? Don't you realize then your position here? In this case, you are to give a tick to this thing and it's going to go through. So now this noise that you're making... And
even if you don't give a tick...
So this noise that you're making, is it so that we can see that you have made noise and that you are able to make this noise for future reference? Or do you actually feel that this friction that you're causing is going to put a significant dent in the flow of things? Is it going to come about at a decision that is going to change things significantly? If so, you should have started making noise a long time ago. Not now.
I think the bottom line, like you're saying, is the timing of all these issues. When Senator James Orengo raises the issue about the bill now in this committee, I think he owes us the honesty of telling us when the first time you saw this particular issue being discussed and being inserted into the BBI.
Exactly.
Into the amendment bill. At that point, did you raise the issue?
If there was an anomaly then,
if you believed that, the proponents of this bill should not have gone ahead to say where exactly the constituencies should be, did you raise that issue at that point? When the conversations were happening, there's a negotiations. Okay, so where are these 70 constituencies going to be? Let's gawanya these constituencies. At that point, Senator Orengo, Senator Okongo Mogeni, where were you? Did you raise the voice then? If you did, then okay. If you were not heard and you still had another opportunity, fair enough. But if you hadn't, then that's a question. The other one is on what, like you're saying, Senator Kangata. Okay, raising the question of the formula that's being used to divvy up the constituencies. Good question to ask. Is it the first time that you're raising this question? If it is, then you're out of order. Absolutely. If it's not, then tell us when you raised that question the first time, what happened? Because As far as the public has seen, you are among the biggest proponents of the BBI process.
Actually,
but I'm liking this fact
yes.
that there's such a kind of a standoff and a showdown between members of parliament who have been on the same side when it comes to BBI. This is not Kipchumba Murkomen who's raising these issues.
He's been fairly silent on this.
Silent. These are the people who have been in the kitchen cooking this particular broth, who are coming up to say, we will make a chumvi mingi sana, and they were all in the kitchen. Why I'm liking this is because as a member of the public who will be expected to get up one morning to go and vote in a referendum, then it's giving me a point to consider. It's giving me a point to look at that thing and ask myself, okay, so what exactly is in this document? How have they arrived at this document? And it adds to the conversation that I've been raising here on the process. The process is as important as the product. The process of getting to this point where we have a BBI, Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020, I have faulted it because I haven't felt like it has been representative in terms of allowing various voices to look at clause by clause. It has been, okay, you give us your views, give us your views, give us your views. Here's what you said. Give us your views, here's what you said. Has there been an opportunity to say, is this exactly what I said? Is this what I meant? Does what you put here really reflect my views and my wishes? There ought to have been that particular moment when you're saying, open up this document, let's discuss the document. When Kotu raised this, when religious organizations raised this, when doctors raised this, when other people, civil society raised this, it was ignored. Now this is where you're finding all these anomalies.
There is an interesting comment that is attributed to one Senator James Orengo in the Star on page 2, and this is what he is quoted as having been spoken by him. As a person who has witnessed how governments are run, I want to say without fear of contradiction that whenever civil servants chart the future, there can never be any peace. This is a warning shot. And when I read it, I thought to myself, I see. And when politicians chart that path,
peace is guaranteed.
Peace is guaranteed, really.
By implication.
Really? You see, the Star even went further. The headline, the first page, they said, fresh discord. Is it a fight between Orengo and Raila? Why is ODM in turmoil? I want to throw this into the basket. We're talking about a political process. This whole discussion, political process. And I'm asking myself, is there anything beyond politicians and the parties that they belong to? Is there anything beyond them? What do I mean? Is it beyond them to create a scenario that will make us have the discussion we are discussing to believe that actually there is a problem where actually no problem actually exists? Okay? And if indeed there is a problem, then you would ask the question, rather I would ask the question, then what is the problem? This headline in the Star, is it that the writers of this particular article or the writer, is there something that he knows about what's going on here in ODM? Because one of the things that happens with every political situation that we have, there's been a discussion for the longest time about Raila Amolo Odinga's age. And with age comes the discussion of succession. Are we talking about succession in ODM? Are we talking about yet people breaking up and forming their own party? On that particular note, those ones, I wish them well. It's been tried before, and we would like to see how this one turns out. But the point that I'm actually raising is this. Every discussion that we are being subjected to right now with regard to the BBI cannot be looked at without looking at what the BBI has been and what it has represented all along. How it has been presented and how these very same people who are now saying what they're saying have said in the past. And if I had to take that into consideration, then I am of the view that we are being played yet again.
Thank you. This is what I'm saying. In this case, this noise, this cloud that you think is a showdown looming, whatever it could be, the only hope that it gives me, to be honest, the only hope that it gives me is that these individuals who are making this noise, when they come together collectively, then actually can clamor for some kind of change within the legislature. It can happen. But it only seems to happen when there's something that directly involves you as an individual and your political expediency or lack thereof. So the noise that you're making, you can actually make it earlier. If you saw a problem, why didn't you deal with it then? But then now you see a sticking point within which you can argue to be able to get something for yourself, because that's what it would appear to be. That you're on a particular side to argue a particular issue because you see how it's going to either propel you forward or put you in a juicy position. And that's the unfortunate thing. Really, do you care for how things will play out in the country as affects the people and the citizens? If you really do care and are concerned about that, when people were making noise 6 months ago, 9 months ago, this whole BBI and the allocation, for example, or things like a divvying up of constituencies and things like that, you would have spoken up then. But you didn't. You're speaking up now.
Yeah. Time for a break, 25 minutes after 8. So Parliament goes into session today and tomorrow to discuss, debate and vote on the Constitution of Kenya Amendment Bill 2020. This is the BBI bill, after which it doesn't really matter whether they say yes or no, right? It goes to the referendum because it is amending some sections of the Constitution that only a referendum can amend. Now, what do you read from here, from what we are seeing from members of Parliament? The committee that was tasked with reviewing this and coming up with a report, a majority of them came up with a report that says there are issues with this particular bill. Does it point to there actually being issues in the BBI bill, or is it just politics? We'll pick your call 0719-012-600 after this. In the meantime, those who have children at home during this holiday season, have you registered your child who is between the ages of kindergarten and grade 11 to the GenerationNextChallenge.com website? And this is the Kenya National Challenge. The Kenya National Challenge is one that empowers students in that age group to acquire a deeper understanding of math, computer science, robotics, sharpening their computational skills, nurturing their creative abilities, and connecting math to real life. What will happen is that once you register the child, then they're able to log in to the platform and they will participate in these various challenges where they're learning and they're interacting with other children from across the country, get some badges, and then they will also interact with children from other parts of the world on math and computational sciences. There's community building, there's experiential learning, there's learning about COVID and COVID loss, curriculum-aligned math, design and systems thinking, all that very beneficial. GenerationNextChallenge.com. That's a portal, 27 after 8.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life. 24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
24 teams, 12 host cities, 6 groups, all battling for one trophy. The long-awaited Euro 2020 is here at last upon us. The fans might not be within touching distance.
Good cross, Giroud attacks it and scores, and France are ahead!
But the atmosphere will only get to a fever pitch. From the 11th of June to the 11th of July, catch the tackles, the goals, and all your favorite football stars as the elite European nations go head-to-head. The Standard Group brings you the UEFA Euro 2020 tournament live across our channel.
Oh, what a wonderful goal!
As the official UEFA Euro 2020 free-to-air broadcast partner in Kenya, because we live for the game. And that's why at Standard Group, sports lives here.
It's time to answer questions that are worthwhile. The Big Quiz Show is here. Register to play from the comfort of your home by SMSing the word JOIN to 23774. Then watch the live show on KTN every Sunday from 8 p.m. where you could have a chance to win a melee. The fastest and most accurate answers are guaranteed to win. The Big Quiz Show, Sundays at 8 p.m. only on KTN.
24/7, around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Johnny. Johnny. Johnny, hata unisikizi. Ni nini umesoma kwa simu hivyo?
Ni gazeti ya leo napitia.
Aje sasa. Si expert.
Ni 5 bob too.
Keep up with the latest trends and news in health, real estate, finance, business, and entertainment from the convenience of your mobile phone. Dial star 550 star 3 hash to access pull-out sections of the standard e-paper for only 5 shillings from your telecom line with no additional charges to enable you to stay up to date, informed, and entertained.
SpiceFM. Nyeri.
All right. Rain showers in some parts of Nairobi still. Highs of 25. Chance of that rain to continue through most parts of the morning. It's also raining in Nyeri at 17. We'll go to highs of 24. 26 will be the high recorded in Nakuru today. Mostly sunny conditions right now at 17. It's partly sunny in Eldoret at 16. Highs of 24. Lows of 13. 28 will be the high in Kisumu today. It's partly sunny at 22. 27 in Kakamega. That's what the high will be. It's partly sunny at 21. Light rain in Mombasa at 28. It continues for most parts of today. Highs of 31. Highs of 30 in Malindi. Rain showers throughout the day as well at 28. It's 21 degrees and raining in Kampala. Highs of 25 and lows of 19. And partly sunny conditions in Dar es Salaam at 26. Highs of 31 and lows of 25. 24 will be the high in Johannesburg, coming down to lows of 12. It's sunny throughout today. Mostly cloudy conditions in Lagos at 25. We'll see highs of 33 and mostly cloudy in Kinshasa at 24. We'll go to highs of 33 and down to lows of 23.
Are you ready? Okay.
Spice FM. Traffic.
All right, where's the traffic this morning? Right in the CBD, from Haile Selassie, then moving through towards railways, out, then going towards Parliament Buildings and Moy Avenue. It seems to be jam-packed today. Anything to do with the relocation, at least transition of vehicles towards the Green Park terminal? Maybe, but there's a lot of traffic in the city. Coming in from all directions, so that might be something to think about as you're headed in there. Let's look at what it looks like. So we're now in the middle of traffic hour. Let's look at Jogo Road. Try to get into the CBD as well. Jam-packed there, connecting towards Landis. A bit of an issue, but will be sorted. Yes. All right, tell us where you might see another situation like that. At least be able to give you some info to be able to get out of it, or at least keep you company until you do. SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Let's text on 40127.
Spice and everything Spice FM.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 90.
The biggest conversation, and the conversation continues with Eric Latif Nduoko, CT Muga. Parliament has been recalled, National Assembly and the Senate. Today and tomorrow they'll be debating this BBI bill and the report of the Joint Parliamentary Committee on Justice and Legal Affairs that came up with 2 reports, the majority and a minority report. When you see these members of Parliament, especially those that have been on the same camp with regards to championing the BBI, now starting to speak like they are talking different languages, do you think this impacts people's perception about BBI itself?
I don't know.
Ask yourself a simple question. At least this is a question I'm asking myself. These 3 individuals that have been mentioned are members of the ODM party.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And so arguably one could say that they owe their seats to being in ODM, even the region that they come from. With the exception, of course, one. Now, the question that I would then ask is, would it be a wise political move to actually go out and oppose your party leader in a matter that the party leader has actually been partial to and has supported for the longest time? How would that point to any political future that you may have if you're thinking about it?
Let me ask you this question, though, CT.
Yes.
By raising concerns, raising questions about the actual content of a document, are you opposing the party leader's position?
I don't think you are. What you are doing is opposing a party position, not leader. Because if the party position is that we are supporting the BBI without amendment,
regardless of
without asking questions
and
all.
what have you.
That's a party position.
Yes.
Is it a position, City?
No. I'm simply trying to explain something here.
Okay, go ahead.
It is not my position. Yes. I'm simply saying.
Well, although the party position, according to the chairman of the party, that's what you're saying.
Yes.
Is ODM's position.
Yes.
The chairman of the party, and I'll read the statement after this, is saying, we support the president and his BBI brother, our party leader, Raila Odinga, on the issue of the BBI.
Yes.
Anything that appears to be questioning anything about the BBI is opposing the BBI. That's basically what John Buddy is saying. Go ahead, City, with your question.
So I am saying this, and if indeed all they're doing is saying, look, folks, we need to relook at this thing, okay? Is it that at this particular point in time, certain circumstances have changed? They have seen a light that hitherto they had not seen in this tunnel that they are in. Is it that their political positions and aspirations be damned? They are going to stand up for what is right, and they are going to, whatever the optics, this is the position that they have taken, and they are going to go with it. And I'm saying it's unlikely. Political animals do not ever engage in things that endanger their political futures. They don't. The only person
Even something as simple as asking questions, by the time that question is being asked, trust me, it's being asked, I'm sure, before the parties that would seem as though they would be upset with you if you ask that question.
Yes.
By the time it's coming out in the public, it's received
Must have been
its
raised.
fair share of approval.
We have seen photos of James Orengo and Raila Odinga in recent past. They have been together.
Yes, that question has probably been asked in those private circles. By the time it comes out into the public, I'm sure of it. It's more likely for them to see how the public is going to react to that question being asked, as opposed to it being a swaying from the position.
Yes.
I've got to ask you something. These things that we're talking about, let's just take the 70 constituencies as an example. Has it changed at all in its salt from how it was presented in the very beginning? In the bill, in the way in which it was, the introduction of 70 new constituencies and how they were going to be established then and or implemented and activated. Has it changed?
Yeah.
Yes?
BBI 1, 2, 3. Which BBI are you talking about?
Let's start from the beginning. Was the 70 constituencies issues there in the beginning?
No.
It was not there. It came about in second BBI. Yeah. Then it was now cleaned up again in the third BBI.
The second BBI said 70, didn't say where.
Okay. So then the third BBI then now said 70 and then
where.
it's going to be here, and there. All right. So the positions change with the versions of the bill.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
So by the time you're asking this question, it's not that you were sleeping and then somebody woke you up and say what you have to say, and then you said, I don't like the fact that certain are going to certain areas and then not coming to me. It's something that you had in mind, you knew. And so for me, it's not necessarily that you are being more robust in your argument, but for me, it is that it's not in the matter, it's in the character of of what you're showing Kenyans. You're asking and you're saying, okay, well, I think we should argue about this, whereas you knew before. You knew before, and I'm still going to stick on that point. You knew before. In as much as you can change your mind and you can ask a question, the direction is still the same.
But no, that doesn't mean that we discount the matter that's being raised. Yes, you may have questions about the messenger, but the message, are they bringing forth a message?
Yes,
a particular message.
They are.
In this particular message, it doesn't matter whether they're bringing it now or last year or whether they should have brought it or whatever motivation they have now that they didn't have then. Because you're going to make a decision. You are going to be called upon to make a decision. Focus on the message. Ignore the messenger anyway. The messenger is making their own, decision. When it comes to making your decision, what shall you focus on? The message. And the message here is being asked, is this the proper way of introducing these new constituencies, number one? Is this a proper way of going through the process of amending? So if we say we amend, for example, the National Police Service Commission, and give some powers directly to the Inspector General of Police, what does that do to the National Police Service Commission? does that advance us as a country or does it not? I want to focus on the message.
I understand the message.
When I see a message here being asked about the judiciary ombudsman and says, you're creating the office of the judiciary ombudsman, this is a question that have been asked before, by the way, in other quarters.
Thank you.
What they're doing is they have been asked before in other quarters. I am liking the message because it's amplifying a certain message that has hitherto been suppressed.
Very good, Eric.
Focus on the message.
Lovely. Focus on this message that for what we are being told, for all intents and purposes, is not going to nothing is going to be done about it at this stage. And what I'm saying, CT, are they going to pass this thing the way it is or not?
The likely thing is that Parliament is going to pass this thing. Okay?
Now, this is what I am saying.
The likely
this
thing
message that we're talking about,
you're
saying
focus,
I wish. This is what I'm saying.
It's going to come to you in the referendum.
It is okay.
If you focus on the message, then your vote at the referendum will be determined by the message.
But you just said amplify what had come out from other quarters before. Don't you see that had the amplification of this message come at a time when something could have been done? Don't you think it would have had a greater impact?
Yes.
Because we're going to talk.
And fortunately,
if you want, let it be booming in people's ears until tomorrow.
Fortunately, I'm not saying unfortunately. Fortunately, it didn't come up. Now that you have the opportunity, focus on the message. Look at the poison. Deal with the poison at the ballot. Let them talk. Let them do this. You can ask, so. Where were you when you could have done something about it? The fact that you didn't do something about it amplifies the message for me. Tells me that a senior constitutional lawyer like James Orengo, like Okongo Mogeni, like Otiende Amolo, who wrote the current constitution, could have seen these loopholes. They did not speak as loudly as they're speaking now.
So
for whatever reason, you didn't do that. My friend, baby, bathwater, get out. Let's go to the phone line. 0719-012-600. Ed Getonga in Nyeri, good morning.
Morning to you. How are you doing, guys?
Very well.
Fine, thanks.
No, there's something that you need to know. That all MPs are hostages of their own parties. Even the president himself is a hostage of his own party. So, in order for something to pass, the party leader has... It happens in these two ways. Either the party leader has to agree or the majority of the members have to agree. Case in point, the president at times, when it comes to fighting corruption, he can't do it, he himself, because he knows if I do this, I'm going to touch so-and-so, and they are going to boycott some of the things that I want passed, which is what I wanted before my term is over. And so the president becomes a chained dog. And a chained dog, even if it barks, even if it's trained at trained as special forces, it won't do a thing. It's chained. Another thing, now come to this ODM thing. There's this one thing that actually most people say. And I'm going to say, they say it in the ODM camp. Kama baba amesoma, hata sisi tumesoma. It's not that baba amesoma or amesoma, no. It's simple. If baba says this, or the leadership of the party says this, our hands are tied.
Are our hands really tied, or are we the ones who tie our hands?
I'm going to say we are the ones who tie our hands because of this one thing. First of all, most people say when it comes to voting, instead of using your brain, you use the party. The elect footy. Forgetting what is at hand. It's your own country, not the party.
So in this particular matter of the BBI bill as it goes to Parliament, and we can see the back and forth and the divisions within people in the same camp, what does it tell you?
Okay, this BBI thing cannot be solved in Parliament, first of all. So I think wacha ipite ikuja referendum, sisi wananchi tuiangushe ama tuipitishe, whatever side it falls on.
Okay.
That is the only way. And then Eric, something else kindly, There was that issue. Okay, yesterday, I'm sorry I couldn't get a call through because I was kind of tied up. Now, yesterday we were handling gender issues, and then later we had Martha Koome as the new CJ. And there's something I wanna say. I know I'll be called gender biased, but there comes a time, even if you don't like it, you have to say. And here's the thing. I think, personally, and I'm speaking to the male generation, I think, personally, the female generation is upping its game. And the male gender is right now an endangered species.
That's what you feel?
Yes. I'm going to tell you why.
Okay, it's okay. Ed, if you allow me, let me pick other callers on the current topic. Then we can have this some other time.
Okay. Have a good one.
Thanks, Ed. Have a good one. Duseno John in Kakamega, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Fine, thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for giving me this opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm happy to have the panel on the television now.
Welcome.
Now, I want to ask a question and maybe a comment on the BBI process and what is likely to become the first major amendment to our constitution. A previous contributor has indicated MPs are basically hostages of their party, and similarly, their leaders have become hostages of the party. So we are playing more about political mobilization and support than taking the country forward. Oftentimes, we have had our leaders say they fight corruption. Oftentimes, we've seen them behave as if they're fighting corruption. But when you find a very close friend to a party leader who is adversely implicated in things that are affecting the entire country, and then the party leaders become quiet, should we say really that we are fighting corruption, or we are just playing musical chairs?
We are cosmetically fighting corruption.
Cosmetically.
Fighting corruption must remain in that sentence. Now you can add other things.
Now, my question would be this. Why would we even be adding more electoral seats when the members of parliament are not doing anything other than the 2 leaders or 3 leaders or 4 leaders? Why don't we just then disband the entire parliament and senate and have these 3 or 5 people run the country?
Big questions you're asking there. Thank you very much, Duseno. Let's hear from other callers as well. David.
Yes, hello.
Good morning.
Morning, thank you.
Karibu sana.
I'm calling from Migori. Yeah, and I also wish to express my feelings concerning the discussion you are having currently this morning.
Yes, go ahead.
It touches on a very paramount matter that's now currently affecting our country. Generally, what I'd say is that politicians have become the people who are now misleading the entire country than any other personnel, even though we've really entrusted them with our future. But what they are doing today is not really matching what we are looking for. Because now, the entire process of BBI had a lot of fails. Now, because you see, from the beginning, they told us they were to conduct public participation. So this one itself failed from the beginning because we were expecting to see a participation which maybe they would involve the entire common wananchi and every person to have the time to give out their views. But this didn't actually happen because, for instance, where I come from, Migori, I heard of sort of a thing, but it was for a selected people in a certain position who were to attend some let me call them 5-star hotels in Migori County. Okay. So which kind of people would they have in such 5-star hotels? It is only a selected individual. So it means that the entire report did not reflect the agony of the common wananchi. So the BBI guys did not manage to get the real feeling of the people on the ground. The other one, This one was only to maybe settle, BBI is a result of the handshake. So there are two major partners in the handshake. So these two major parties, or let me say the two big eggs now, the president and this brother. Yeah. Their main interest was to bring the peace in our country, then maybe find a way forward to forge for our future. But this has really failed because the BBI itself, they say they have got a lot of good plans, maybe to give us more constituencies. But the problems that we go through, you cannot solve them by adding more constituencies because the constituencies don't hold back our progress. Then even if you were to create them, I think this would also involve other institutions like the IBC you have mentioned. But now somebody like Orengo has misled us more than any other person. Because when there were still a lot of peace within the ODM and Jubilee after the handshake, everything was okay. Now, because there are some small skirmishes, which I may not mention because I'm not on the know too much, they can now point out problems in the BBI.
That's what you read. Thank you very much, David. Thank you for your call. Let's hear from Audrey in Kino. Good morning.
Morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning.
Thank you.
Maybe I have watched too many TV shows, but I feel like all this is just orchestrated drama. Yes.
How so?
I mean, Orengo has been in the process from the very beginning.
Yep.
So how is it that now he is noticing their issues? Didn't he notice these issues from the beginning? And if he did, why didn't we hear his voice back then? Why didn't he raise them back then? Why now? It feels like these are just orchestrated drama, diversionary tactics to divert people from the important discussions right now. Like, I mean, when we are discussing BBI, every time BBI, newspapers, BBI, news, BBI, we forget that there is a Kenyan saga that is supposed to be investigated. We forget that doctors are dying due to lack of PPEs. We forget that people are dying in hospitals because there isn't enough oxygen. Yes. So I feel like all this is just orchestrated drama. None of these feelings they're trying to put out are genuine. If they were, we should have had them from the very beginning, and they should have been constant with them.
Well put, Audrey. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Do you agree with her that this could just be diverting our attention from the more important matters affecting our daily lives today, that our elected leaders in Parliament, heading the executive, should be focusing on?
My very position from the very beginning.
This is a soap opera.
These are politicians, for heaven's sake. Okay? And the way politicians present themselves in this country, this is not something that should be subject to a lot of debate. We know exactly what they do. So when politicians suddenly raise issues and which they are vehemently trying to convince us are pertinent, the more they try, they're protesting too much. The more they try, the more I'm convinced this is anything but what they're trying to do.
They're putting too much effort into
There's
this.
too much. They are protesting too much.
So what do you think then is the country being diverted from?
The reality that we have, reality number one, COVID. This is the background from which we now look at the debt that we owe. This is the background from which we look at the development record of the government. This is where we look at the probity, the ability and the capacity of this government to actually tell us what it is they've been doing with all this money that they have been borrowing on our behalf and paying with the money that we give them. Okay? These are the pertinent issues, because had those monies been spent as they claimed they were to be spent, some of the issues that seem to be throttling us right now wouldn't throttle us. There'd be issues, but there'll be manageable issues. But everything that is supposed to be manageable isn't manageable, because even now, when we get funds for supposed COVID management, you still can't get clarity as to how that money was used for COVID. And as I told you, when a senior civil servant starts telling you that, this money that was given for COVID by MF, can we use some for youth empowerment? And you're thinking, what is the matter with you?
Can we just a little bit?
What is the matter with you? In fact, the question I ask is, who gave you that job in the first place? Huh?
How did you end up there?
How did you end up there? Because you don't seem to understand. Huh? So, that's a civil servant. All right. Now, if people in leadership, that's their thinking. And then now, amidst everything that we're dealing with, this is something that's supposed to take center stage in our discussion.
You have issues. No. Time for a break. Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Have you logged onto that portal yet? Jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. It's part of the services being offered to you free of charge by the Standard Media, where you go and subscribe for job alerts. Relevant jobs are sent to you via email or SMS. And you see, whenever a job is advertised that fits you, then you will be able to see them. But also, if you just log on to jobs.standardmedia.co.ke, you see very many jobs. For example, project manager in Diani for global trauma projects. Baraka beekeeping facilitator. A project officer for Victory Farms Limited, monitoring and evaluation coordinator for Victory Farms Limited, and very many other jobs that have been listed on jobs.standardmedia.co.ke. Go in there, look at the current jobs. If you don't find any job that you think suits you, subscribe. And anytime a job that suits you is advertised, you will receive an SMS alert. Time for us to take a break. 4 minutes to 9. This is The Situation Room, Kenya's biggest conversation.
Sugar and spice and everything nice, just the way you like it.
The Spice Drive.
Did you have a great day? I hope you did. I intend to make it better from 3 p.m. to 7 p.m. I'm going to be taking you home nice and chill. Everyone is welcome aboard. The hashtag is Spice Drive and, of course, SpiceFM KE on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter.
The Spice Drive with Monique. The official soundtrack of getting you where you need to be.
Thank you.
The political class, the contestants, everybody is trying to outsteal the other.
Remorse is not taught in any school. Manners is something you get from your mother. You don't get it from your political party.
Why are we so unfocused as a country? Why are we spending money and resources? Yet we have real challenges in this country.
This coronavirus pandemic should teach us one thing, that universal healthcare is critical. Because at this point, whether you have a medical card that covers you, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter.
This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.
So I'd promised to read you part of the statement issued yesterday by ODM Chairman John Mbadi, CPA John Mbadi, EGH MP, National Chairman ODM, leader of the minority party in the National Assembly of the Republic of Kenya. So he starts off by saying Parliament is embarking on a very, very, very important journey in the next 2 days to discuss this bill. And he also raises issues with those that are saying Parliament should amend. And he says we shouldn't amend. We have very many gains in this BBI, and he goes ahead to name those gains. But then he concludes this way. ODM stands in full support of the bill and calls for its passage in totality. And we stand solidly side by side with His Excellency the President and his brother Right Honorable Raila Odinga in their quest to fix Kenya through partnership and honest engagement. We urge President Kenyatta and the ODM leader Raila Odinga to soldier on. The President and Right Honorable Raila, get this assurance from us as a party. You have enough troops both behind you and by your side to help you push this agenda through. Do not be afraid, Mr. President and Mr. Prime Minister. Do not be distracted. Do not be blackmailed. We are in this battle together. Thank you, and God bless Kenya. Muskia, do not be blackmailed. Do not be distracted. Do not be afraid. That document, when it comes, we are marshalling the troops to pass it as it is. Those who are saying that it's poisoned, shauri out. Those that are saying it has issues, they don't see what we are seeing.
It's going like that.
We are passing it like that. And with that, of course, John Badi, as a leader of the minority in the National Assembly, will have done his job. Did it come to us? Yes. Did we pass it? Yes. Bus. These conversations continue. In the next hour, we talk about today being a very special day. What day is it again?
Wednesday.
Today is Wednesday. Okay.
Honestly.
Yeah. The World Day for Safety and Health at Work.
At work. Okay.
Good morning. It's 9 a.m.
Spice up your life. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi. Traffic.
Okay. So the traffic still continues. It's not anything glaring at us this Wednesday. It looks like it's going along pretty well. No complaints from most parts. Industrial area, the little stick up here and there because of the construction on the road. Same thing on Mombasa Road. Then out into the city, where we do have some hold on traffic is in the middle of the CBD in Nairobi today. So this one, getting into the CBD, it's going to be a wait to get out or to even find a parking from what we're being told this morning. Really jam-packed. So NMS is dealing with this transition. We're going to wait and see what it looks like after a couple of days. Tomorrow is the last day, or rather the day that the stretch between the Nyayo Stadium and Bunyala roundabout should be opened. We'll wait and see how that goes. All right, so guys, keep hang tight. Hopefully it doesn't get any more crazier than it already is. And just in case it does, talk to us on SpiceFM KE on Twitter. Text on 40127. Let's see if we can offer up any solutions, or you can give us information that we can share with other guys.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Oko, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latif, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
This is the fourth hour of our show today. CT, today's proverb.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom. It's a good one. That's a good one. We'll align it to what's happening in Somalia.
Well, you can even domesticate it and bring it closer to home.
What's happening in Parliament?
Even leave the political angle of it, just in everyday life.
It happens all the
time. It happens
eh?
all the time, even in your own homes.
You lose your reputation.
You lose your kingdom.
Things just go south.
The kingdom that is preeminent in this discussion, the kingdom of respect.
Si ufalme wa mbinguni.
Ufalme wa mbinguni, that one, we will talk with the person who owns mbinguni.
We'll consult him.
Yes.
Okay. So today is World Day for Safety and Health at Work. World Day for Safety and Health at Work. The annual World Day for Safety and Health at Work promotes the prevention of occupational accidents and diseases globally. It's an awareness-raising campaign intended to focus international attention on the magnitude of the problem and on how promoting and creating a safety and health culture can help reduce the number of work-related deaths and injuries. The theme for this year is anticipate, prepare, and respond to the crisis. Invest now in resilient OHS systems. Occupational health and safety. Now, these various organizations, including this one of ours, the Standard Group, is very strong on occupational health and safety. In fact, there's an entire department that deals with occupational health and safety. From the moment you get into the Standard Group, if you're driving in, there's instructions on the speed limit, there's instructions on how you should park. It's only reverse parking. And the head of health and safety explains that. Why do we come up with that policy that it's only reverse parking? Because they noticed, and these are studies that have also been done in other workplaces, that when people park facing forward, then when they're exiting that parking, they reverse out. Many times that's when accidents happen, especially if there are very many people crossing that place. But if you do reverse parking, when you're driving out, then you can see as you're driving out. So you can see any pedestrian who's walking by, and therefore or any other vehicle, and therefore you minimize those chances of accident. Some of those little things or small things going all the way to the point of your health, and your health matters, and advice on health, critical. And that's why the theme, anticipate, prepare, and respond to the crisis. Invest now in OHS. Having a conversation with us on this particular matter is the principal of the Kenya Red Cross Training Institute, who's also the manager for training and capacity building at the Kenya Red Cross Society, Monica Orero. Good morning, Monica.
Morning, Eric.
Good to see you. Welcome to the Situation Room.
Good to have me on the Situation Room today. Thank you.
Now, the Kenya Red Cross Society, when you think about first aid, you think Red Cross, okay? Now, when you are being told about occupational health and safety by somebody from Red Cross, you're like, okay, let me listen. I'm going to listen to this. First, start by telling us your training institute. What is it that you train people on? And who do you train?
The Kenya Red Cross Training Institute basically trains emergency responders. These are the emergency medical technicians, the paramedics. These are the people who help you on your hour of need. We call it the golden hour.
Mm-hmm.
When you, for example, have a traumatic accident, they manage you, they stabilize you before referring you for medical care in the hospital.
Uh-huh.
Besides that, as you say, we are on a government armed training, first aid, fire, and that is the occupational health and safety wing that we're talking about today.
Okay.
Besides that, we also train medical personnel. We refresh the skills of doctors, nurses, clinical officers, and other medical practitioners to refresh their skills. Like, for example, now during COVID time, they need a lot of skills to help them manage the patient. So that is what we do. We are registered internationally by the American Heart Association to do that, and locally through the Medical Dentist Practitioners Board and other regulatory bodies like NICA and Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety, which we are talking today.
No, go ahead.
Okay, so as we're looking at celebrating and commemorating this day, can you give us an outlook on what does it really look like? The dangers that lie, towards health and safety in the workspace. Are we looking at quite some? Those that people that may have suffered from previously, or the threat that is resident there when it comes to health and safety in the workplace? Is it quite some?
Yes, just as Eric introduced the topic, health and safety is part and parcel of our planning at workplace. And most of the organizations you see, even just the way we design our sitting spaces, that is a danger in itself. Even the machines and the sitting arrangements and the seats and the kind of distances we have, even the wiring that we have in the offices, those are imminent dangers that, if not looked at structurally in terms of the required occupational health and safety standards globally, those are the health practices we see every day. You hear someone has retired and died instantly. and you look back and wonder what would have caused this death, most of us would think it is stress. And maybe this person has been working in a cement factory with no protective gear, and these things keep accumulating in this person's health. If they don't go for frequent checkup, which is recommended in the Occupational Health and Safety Act, these are the things we carry day to day in our lives.
Oh, okay. So, so I mean, just I'm saying, you're looking at the workplace. So there's quite a heavy threat that is posed towards people's health by virtue of the fact that they're in a workspace. And we're not just talking about like industries and manufacturing, even your normal run-of-the-mill office space. There is quite a threat then that if you don't pay attention to it, you then are, quite susceptible to this. Is that what we are saying?
That is what I'm saying. For example, even the seat you're sitting on today, is it safe?
Well,
even your
computer.
So.
The question I would ask is what is it supposed to be safe for? Beyond sitting on.
It should be safe for your back. It should be safe for your eyesight in terms of the distance between you and your computer. It could be safe in terms of your colleagues at the office. So it's all round, and there are guidelines that will continue to sensitize organizations through training to avert these dangers.
Now, the things that you're saying, I resonate with me. They make sense. But now my mind has to go to, okay, in a workplace similar to the place that we are at right now, how do you ensure that the people who are responsible for those very things in these organizations, like ours, do what they're supposed to do, and that the workers benefit from the full safety measures that are required of them? Because I'm certain that there are certain international standards that are supposed to be met. How does one ensure that these things are done?
First of all is to have a safety and health committee. This is anchored at the management level. This safety and health committee have champions. But besides this, the whole organization must have gone through the training. And there must be periodic risk assessments that the organization must take through, just the way we go through performance evaluation at a quarterly level. These are the assessments that this committee and the rest of the management team, like the human resource, need to take into consideration, such that as we continue practice work, the safety measures go hand in hand with what our performance are. So these safety measures must be embedded in our strategic plan in an annual basis so that we have a systematic review on specific times of the year.
Now, is there, okay, I understand the training again and the review, but is there an international certification that people get for this sort of thing so that you know that when you are in this particular workplace, they are certified? Because with the certification then would come the reviews that you're speaking about, the ensuring that those standards that had been set have been met. Is there such a certification?
Well, every country is governed by its laws, and I know ILO has standards, but within Kenya, we have an act that governs our practices, and that is why there are specific organizations that give these certifications to every organization. As you realize, occupational health and safety is a requirement by every organization to train on an annual basis. So yes, there is certification, but localized to the individual country.
Okay, so as you commemorate this year, commemorate this day every year, this year, focusing on the theme, what exactly are we hoping that we can pay attention to this time around?
We've lost her. Let's see if John can get her back on the line. We are having a conversation with Monica Orero. She's the manager for training and capacity building at the Kenya Red Cross Society, and also the principal at the Kenya Red Cross Training Institute, commemorating World Day for Safety and Health at Work 2021, an important day to look at the various aspects of health and safety in the workplace, like you're saying. You know, some basic things like this seat, is it safe? The wiring, is there any wiring that could trip you? How is the ceiling?
Is it too close?
Is it too close? This lighting, is it safe for your eyes? All those things are important. She's back on the line. Hi, Monica.
Hi.
Yes. So Ndu had a question for you just before we lost you.
So, like, looking at the theme for this year, what are we trying to emphasize now? Because, I mean, certain things have already been established for certain organizations and saying, yes, well, we know that we need to have this in place. But obviously, every year, there's something that needs to be emphasized more. What are we focusing on this year, taking into consideration that so many things have happened health and safety-wise over the last 365 days? What are we pushing this year?
We're pushing for stronger infrastructure at national level, or having workplace systems that are able to preempt, impact, and tackle the challenges that come with it, and build resilience for work, and in turn give positive effect on public health. As you realize, this year in history, there has never been such a year because of the COVID-19 impact. And that is why we derive our theme this year: anticipate, prepare, and respond in response to emergencies. So we are calling out the government, the actors and the stakeholders and the individuals to have a stronger infrastructure to enable us to preempt and develop resilience on occupational health and safety action.
As we look at implementation of like the laws that we have in the country, various organizations are expected to have in place various occupational health and safety practices. What are the punitive, first of all, who is in charge of enforcing this? And then what are the punitive measures for those that do not comply?
In Kenya, the government agency that is directly in charge is the Ministry of Labor under the Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety. Every organization is supposed to adhere, and the penalty is if they found you contravening the laws, the organization should be closed for a period of 3 to 6 months unless these practices are enforced. Yes.
And is it every organization of every size? Like I run an organization where I'm the only one in the office, or is it an organization of a certain size in terms of workforce?
An organization is 1 to 10. So even if it's you and your consultancy in that small space, you should adhere to the standards in terms of the spacing, the ventilation, the lighting, sanitary conveniences, all those. It applies to 0 to 100 or 1,000 employees organization.
How different is this?
And health is the health practices around your work. Yes.
I ask because in my mind, if I read about ISO certification, one of the things you mentioned process as well, that they also consider things like safety, okay? Processes, whether you have those in place. So would you say that the sort of training that you are referring to feeds into ISO certification, or would you say that they are separate, that one doesn't quite complement the other?
Of course, you can't get ISO without occupational health and safety. So you have to have the standards for you to get ISO certified. So it feeds into ISO.
Very good. Now, from how should I put it? From a government perspective, because I see it's businesses that normally focus on some of these things. Yes, you hear of a certification within, say, parastatals or even county governments. But once you said, yes, you review Yes, you ensure that these standards are maintained. I want you to tell us how exactly you achieve this.
Through the registered practitioners within this field. As you realize, this field is regulated by the ministry itself. The ministry itself is responsible for regulating the practices within the ministries and the counties. I don't know whether to call that conflict of interest. But we also have other stakeholders. For example, like Kenya Red Cross is an agency that reinforces these government laws. So, for example, the way we can reinforce is through impromptu risk assessment. Like if we got into, for example, county government of Machakos and did a risk assessment, we present this risk assessment to the Directorate of Occupational Health and Safety. So they have a mandate to visit these county government offices and reinforce these laws. That is how it works.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of your success stories? I mean, institutions, whether they are governmental, whether they are private, where you've actually conducted these trainings, you've done the requisite follow-up, and that you've been met with the sort of success that you expected to see at the end of this process.
Well, we would give an example of ourselves at Kenya Red Cross. We practice. We have existing committee members. We also have partners like SNV Netherlands. Our other partner in this practice is we give advisory to Safaricom Limited. We also work with other county governments like the Machakos government. We have many other organizations that may not come into mind now, but those are just a few examples that I can give.
That's perfect. But do you work with, if you do work with ministries within government, have you worked with the Ministry of Education?
Yes.
Mm-hmm. And what has the success rate been with the Ministry of Education? And what specifically have you done with the Ministry of Education?
With the Ministry of Education, like for example, last year during the COVID pandemic, when we were struggling about opening of the schools, we came up with a program on disaster preparedness with the schools and presented the same to the ministry on how we can cascade this to their induction program when they join the institution, how to prepare, how to even work within the classes. And this is a process that is ongoing, and there are schools that we have worked with closely, and we are seeing the progress in terms of implementation.
Have you considered perhaps also talking with the Institute of Curriculum Development in the country? Because when you're talking about safety, it would be a good thing for the values of safety to be inculcated in children at a very early stage, so that it's just part and parcel of what they learn. So as they grow up having this thing in mind.
Exactly.
We have had that discussion with the ministry, and the first implementation they had wanted us to do was to train the teachers. And we're also in the process of inculcating the same with the curriculum development, so that this practice is inculcated in the students at a young age. But within Kenya Red Cross, we also have clubs within the schools. So we train the clubs in matters of health and safety and as basic first aid procedures. So this is something we took up as Kenya Red Cross. As you know, we are also auxiliary to the government, so it is something that is already in practice.
So I'm just thinking now, as an employee of an organization, what is it that I should be looking out for to see whether I actually work in a healthy and hazard-free environment? What should any ordinary person be looking out for and expecting of their organization?
Eric, safety begins with you. That is our slogan.
Mm-hmm. It's like security.
So, so as you work in an organization, your safety is yourself. It's within yourself. Besides what the organization does for you, it is your responsibility to ensure your workspace is safe. But as an organization, we must also ensure that our employees have adequate space, adequate ventilation, good seating, good work equipment. So it is also your responsibility as an employee to report when you have inadequate equipment or when your space is not adequate or is not as per the regulation that's required. It is a right of an employee.
So as we say, if health and safety begins with me, and I am really looking for a job. Now, let's just get into the practicals of it. You're looking for a job, you get a job at a certain mjengo. You can see clearly that the people who are working on the 17th floor up there, the only thing that they have is a hard hat, nothing else.
Okay.
And you are really looking for employment. Would you say, nyinyi nitawapeleka kotini, or, I mean, where do you strike that balance between looking out for your own safety, but also understanding that you have bills to pay?
It's a very thin line of balance because as the economy of Kenya, you know how we are. Of course, as a normal citizen, I will take that job. And that is the reason we're having a global dialogue today. Can the government build a stronger infrastructure at a national level so that these organizations, when they are building this building, to ensure that all the required measures have been taken to ensure the safety of this person who is a casual laborer working at 17th floor has to wear all the protective gear. So that is the conversation we are having today. To work strong with the government, to work with the international partners, so that we build this infrastructure to help us manage the lives and health of our employees. Of course, it's a thin balance. I will not cheat you. I will go back home. I will work. But that is why we are having frequent deaths. For example, let me give a live example. That's Makanga in Amataki. For them to attract these young clients, they have to put that music at full blast. And they are shouting and calling people. Follow this matatu driver on the town in another 3 to 5 years. Their eardrums would have gone. So that is why we are calling on partners to help us strengthen this infrastructure so that we are able to enforce these laws for us to be able to build a healthy nation.
Thank you very much, Monica. Monica Orero is the manager for training and capacity building at the Kenya Red Cross Society, also the principal of the Kenya Red Cross Training Institute. She's been sharing with us the insights on today's World Day for Safety and Health at Work. As you commemorate this day, we wish you all the best, Monica.
Thank you, Eric, for having me.
Thank you
very much, Monica.
Thank you.
Time for us to take a break at 28 minutes after 9. Let's take a look at the weather and traffic, and the conversation continues.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day. Spice up your life 24/7 around the world, non-stop. This is SpiceFM.
Hello.
Halo, umesikia?
Nimesikia nini?
Hujasikia habari? Hebu acha nikuambie. Kile kimetokea.
Hello? Hello? Hello?
Don't wait for hearsay. Dial *550*1# to read the Standard e-paper from the convenience of your mobile phone for only 20 shillings from your telecom line, and stay up to date for a reliable source with over 100 years of experience with no additional data charges.
Have you seen the? Am I live?
Yes, it's a very nice outfit, I must say. Good
Thank
job.
you. Asante sana.
The compliment is well received.
Good morning and thank you. Everyone in Wasingishu was asking me what channel is SpiceFM.
96.7. Tell them that, right?
Yes, now they know.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
Pleasure to have
what
you.
What a beautiful studio, my friend.
I've been to other radio stations, but I've never seen anything like this.
Thank you, and it's very nice to be in a modern studio. Absolutely brilliant.
And I have to say, it's very
Okay, so looking around the country, in Nairobi, those showers will continue in some parts, but it'll be dry for most parts of today. At 20 degrees, it'll go to highs of 25 and lows of 17. Rain showers in Nyeri at 18, highs of 24 and lows of 15. Mostly sunny conditions in Nakuru at 20, highs of 26 and lows of 15 today. 24 will be the high in Eldoret, it's partly sunny at 19. 24 degrees and mostly sunny in Kisumu, highs of 28 and lows of 20. 27 will be the high in Kakamega, it's mostly sunny at 24. At 30 degrees, Mombasa, it's raining. It'll go to highs of 31. It's 29 degrees in Malindi and raining as well, going to highs of 30. 25 the high in Kampala. Rain at 22 at the moment. Dar es Salaam still rains at 23, at 27, I beg your pardon, highs of 31 and lows of 25. Sunny conditions in Johannesburg at 20, highs of 24, highs of 33 in Lagos and cloudy at 24. It's 24 and mostly cloudy in Kinshasa as well. Go to highs of 33. We look out into Beijing, closing in on early evening. It's 23 degrees, highs of just that and lows of 8. Sunny conditions in Paris at 8, highs of 18 and lows of 6. And 8 degrees and sunny in London, highs of 12 and lows of 5. And it's mostly cloudy in New York at 12, highs of 29 and lows of 19.
Classic soul, R&B, smooth jazz, neo soul, and nostalgic ballads.
Make some noise. Yeah.
You're listening to Spice FM.
Today has not been a bad day as concerns traffic. It's still heavy on Mombasa Road. It's to be expected through most parts of the early morning. We'll keep an eye on that. Other parts, though, it seems to have gotten better over time. And we don't have anything crazy jumping out at us just yet. Should that happen, let us know. You know the numbers, 40127 via text. And you can tweet SpiceFM KE.
Spice up your life. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Continues. In the room, you have CT Muga, Ndu Oko, Eric Latif. So, Ndu, maendeleo wilayani.
So the digitalization of things at the Nairobi Registry for Lands, we are being told, is going to then get rid of the perennial problems that we have seen concerning land in this country. Okay? So it looks like the digitalization has essentially waved a magic wand, and a lot of the problems that we will see will disappear. All right. There are certain things that you can do now to make sure that you are in charge of the process. And on the other end of the process is now the machine that is the ministry to make sure that this doesn't happen. It closes the door to so many things. It marks the end of the manual land transactions in the city. What it does is that it closes the door to underhand dealings at the house. This will not happen anymore because everything is in the system. In order for you to change something, you have to go through certain mechanisms, a management system, in order to be able to do that. I see your hand and I raise you a bit of an explanation before I draw your hand. It also says that because of this, legitimate landowners dispossessed by land stealing cartels, this will no longer happen because of this digitalization. It's an up. I see your hand yet again, Charles, and I'll raise you a weight. An updated and easily accessible database of land records. So when you're looking for who sold it to whom, who bought it for how much, who then was an interim owner, who then was a second generation owner, for things like this, all of this information then will be available to you. And this digitalization, from what we are being told, is a wonderful thing. Land has been always such a serious issue. And in many cases emotive, right? Because of the manual handling of these records, paper lost, we don't know what, where, gone, 2, 3, 4 people holding one title deed for the same parcel of land. Now, with this new era that has been introduced and then flagged off by the president yesterday, we can now wave goodbye to these problems. Does the digitalization of the Nairobi registry equal the end of an era of fraud and underhand dealings by middlemen and cartels, and now this land, we can now breathe a sigh of relief when it comes to the operations of such?
Do pigs fly?
Yeah, American football. It's pigskin.
City.
No.
City, surely.
So long as you have human beings as part and parcel of this process, because machines aren't corrupt.
No.
The equipment doesn't steal. The equipment don't form cartels. The equipment don't conduct or bring about or are involved in underhand deals. They are not. So until and unless you are telling me that the moment someone gets into contact with this particular system, then every vice that is in their system will be immediately wiped away. Every intention, every pursuit towards vice will magically disappear. Wishful thinking at the very best.
Really?
Complete wishful thinking.
I say it differently. And I want to use the example that we discussed the other day on transfer of motor vehicles. When the process of motor vehicles was digitized, such that now all logbooks are digital, to purchase, to sell a motor vehicle became easy. To have your logbook with you at any point became very easy. There were times when you would not be able to sell a car because logbook only. It disappeared somewhere. Either, number one, you lost your logbook for one or any other reason. Where people lose things. You lose your documents, you lose your ID, you lose your logbook. And you have this particular property of yours that you'd like to transfer it to somebody else. You can't. You have to go and apply for a new logbook, and then they tell you, right, wait, we're going to process. We have filed this thick. Give us your post office number, and that's where your logbook is going to be mailed. Now, using registered mail, okay, but it's a long process. Nowadays, transfer, log on to NTSA or eCitizen, go to that motor vehicle part, fill in the details. You want to transfer this vehicle to CT Muga, put in CT Muga's details, click OK. On the other end, CT Muga logs in, finds the details, accepts, fills in their part, OK, vehicle transferred. Records indicate this vehicle is now owned by CT Muga.
There's a trail.
There's no way that anybody can go and sell my car without I having authorized. It's the same thing that's happening here with the issue of selling land. We have dealt with multiple cases where many people have bought the same piece of land. And these things are all over, especially if you go to Nairobi. You'll find people saying, I hold a title deed, and 3 other people come with a document claiming that this is a title deed.
For the same parcel
of land,
same. Of course.
You go to Lands Registry, and one file is disappeared, one has not. Now if it's digital, you log on, you want to search for a piece of land. Let me just read the process of search. Just search. Log into the system, navigate to the search application, click on new application, enter the parcel number, enter the reason for search, select the scope of the search. Do you want detailed or do you want just a truncated version? Submit that application. Once you click submit, The system sends a notification to the registered landowner. Somebody is searching about the details of your piece of land. Do you want this information to be given to them? Owner logs into the system and approves or denies the request. Notification is sent to the person who was searching that your request has been rejected by the owner or approved by the owner, and here are the details. See? So now, if you indeed are in a transaction with somebody, you tell them, just go and search. They go search, you'll say, okay, give them the information. They'll get the information. Next thing, what do we want to do? Transact. Same process. It'll be clear who logged on. This is the person who logged onto the system. This is the person who approved. This is the person who logged on and sold. This is the person who said okay to the sale. Done. This thing of coming back to say at some officer at Lands Ministry and tulienda kwa ofisi fulani tulikuwa hapa. Then you're told, but you can see these are store. Lakini tulikuwa hapa, mkubwa. Tulikuwa hapa. Gone. I see a bright new future.
Are they going to re-employ everybody in that ministry? Are they going to re-employ everybody? Are they going to have new employees in that particular ministry?
I see where you're going with this. So essentially you're saying that the people who used to operate this previous system are the same ones now operating this now management technology.
That is precisely what I am saying. Because I actually see a situation where the dangers we had before the cartels, it's worse. Because now, when you have an equipment, call it whatever you want to call it, something miss, okay? You are going to have a situation where all that control is under the purview of very, very few people. But those few people also report to other people. And there is some level of control that they have with that equipment. With a person, at least I could complain, and I could look for somebody who knows him to talk to him and to explain. I cannot talk to that equipment. That particular individual who's in charge is the God of that particular heaven. All right? My problems are likely to be more, not less. Infinitely more. Because all you've done is now you've introduced a dictatorship.
It's a system.
Dictatorship.
You see, initially, you could come back later to the boss and say, I came and met a Mr. Eric. And the boss says, let's call Eric. Eric, aye, boss. You know, you had posted me to Kilifi last week to attend that blah, blah, blah meeting. I wasn't here.
Better still.
Now with the system, there's nothing about it's
there's
clear.
A trail. There's a record.
There's a trail. Who was transacting on this particular piece of land on this day?
You know, let me concede and say that in theory, it works really well. But land, motor vehicles, very different entities. Very, very different. Completely different. You don't have motor vehicles that are owned by a community. You have land that is owned by a community. Well, you may have a SACCO owning vehicles and so forth, and a company and people are involved. Transfer of vehicles usually is, well, something that a few individuals who actually own vehicles would like to be involved in. And then there are people who are actually in the business of selling these things. There really is no problem when it comes to the buying and selling of vehicles and even registering. And that, the problem isn't an issue. It isn't big. It isn't emotive. It is nowhere near the attachment and the value and everything else that we attach to land. Because of all these things, land is a commodity that is expensive in any way you want to look at it. Because it's the one thing we attach all these things that I'm saying to. Vehicles, not really. Now, because of that, the very, very process of gaining and making profit from this industry called land and everything involved in it, if we can do away, as said, with the vice that are inherent in this system, then I would say yes. But so long as there are people at lands who are responsible for this system, there are people who want to gain from this system by doing what they did before, a system simply makes it easier for them, not harder.
Let's hear from our listeners. 0719-012-600. Do you trust that the new system digitizing land transactions is going to be of benefit? Or do you think, like CT, that, hey, this one is still same problem, different monkey, different forest? Jimmy Kimani in Malindi, good morning.
Yes, good morning to how are you?
Very
good
well.
Morning. Fine, thank you. What really I can say, and I go direct to the point, is that just like you said, the same monkey in a different forest. You see, who made this system? We know about the problem of people having 3-4 title deeds.
Yeah.
Okay, of one parcel of land. Now, in that system that they have made, who is the right person recognized by that digital, digital process? Because there are very many occasions where you see, like a place like Man Island in Lamu. There was it is a land that had settled. People had settled on it.
Yep.
Everybody knows their boundaries.
Yep.
And then the people in charge of in the land, they come and do a scheme. How can you scheme a land which is already occupied by people? It was supposed to be land adjudication, but they did a scheme. And if I am on plot number 6, you are given plot number 20, which plot number 20, because it's a scheme, belongs to somebody else. So there was all this kind of confusion. And the National Land Commission was told about that process, that there was fault of representation of the people. And they still went on with the process. So these people first in the land department, they are not trustworthy. One. So first, before they do that, the National Land Commission was supposed to have cleared all conflicts of land in the Republic of Kenya, so that everybody can know who is the right owner of a specific piece of land, so that they can now digitalize the system. But by them digitalizing the system, without solving these conflicts, it is adding salt into the injury. Number two, what if I'm an owner of a land, and some people kidnap me, put me in a room under gunpoint, and tell me, transfer this land? Don't you see the process will be so simple? And after I've transferred the land to a specific person, then they kill me and bury me somewhere and hide me there. So the land will have gone to someone else. We have seen people in the National Land Commission being killed. People being, we have heard about the lady who was assassinated. So with issues to do with the land, assassination is very easy. You see, so this is putting the citizens at a very high risk of land theft, because at least if they would have included, you can make reference to the right owner of the land, but still, before the transaction is completed, the person must avail themselves in the land's office physically for a specific signature and transaction. That can lead to safety. But without that, personal representation into the land's office, then it will be very easy for people to start being killed because of land.
We see danger. Okay, good points. Good points, Jimmy. Thank you very much. Hilary from Embakasi, good morning.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
It's been a while, Hilary. Hope you're well.
I'm well.
Good.
And I've been listening, but through just background.
Okay.
What I can say is that actually, digitizing process is actually a good process, but sometimes I can say that some processes in Kenya, they are being initialized before a proper survey is being done. And I'm sorry to say that these things mostly they are being spearheaded by cartels in this country, because you'll find that the most of the people spearheading these things, they have got big chunks of money, big chunks of land, or they have got lands that they are eyeing on somewhere, knowing that very well that most of the Kenyans right now, especially from the rural areas, haven't
acquired title deeds.
Haven't acquired title deeds. They're not yet digitized every process.
Yeah.
So it's only a matter of time you'll have to hear that somebody staying in a land ancestral land, but you'll find that it belongs to the government. From there, you'll find that it belongs to a certain tycoon.
Hey, there's a lot of mistrust on this particular one. Thank you, Hilary. Bogwa in Mombasa, good morning.
Good morning, Eric.
How are you?
Niko salama. Habari ya Eric na the lady.
Ndu is fine.
Titi and the lady.
We are very well, thank you, sir. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you.
Yes.
I want to give a very brief statement.
Go ahead, Bogwa. Are you there? All right, we've lost him. Just call back, Bogwa, and we'll be able to speak to you. 0719-012-600. There's serious mistrust on anything land.
Completely.
From whichever way you look at it, keep it manual, then itaibiwa. Digitize it, itaibiwa. Unless you do this and the other. I mean, it's a very, very emotive issue.
Look at other things in the country that run via systems, just like you were saying, with registration of motor vehicles and things like this.
ID.
Nobody really has an issue with that.
passport.
Get your ID, get your passport, get on the system, make a payment. Nobody has a register a business and all of this. But when it comes to something like that land that people hold dear anyway, and that where they have also seen previously that things can get quite messy, forget it. Nobody's trusting this. And whereas it is being, put forth by government that this is actually a way to clean up the mess that was previously there, and people are saying, actually, no, it is a way to compound the problems that were previously there. It's making it much worse. I mean, it sounds really crazy from what Justin was saying when he called a few minutes ago. Jimmy, sorry.
Jimmy in Malindi.
And he's played out this whole movie scene, but it's not far from the reality that people have in their minds. That here you are, okay, so you've digitized something that criminals will use to make sure that it is clear it was you.
Transfer the piece of land. Yeah. Gone.
Who are you going to go and say, I didn't do it? Because according to you, the system says it is you who did it. It's you logged on, you gave your approval, it's gone. Right? The system.
What?
Right, Eric, say it.
Now, I want to ask, if we use that argument, okay, so somebody, gunpoint, log on to your online banking system, transfer money, gone, do we say then let's not adopt online banking?
No. You don't.
It's easy for you to transfer.
I'm glad you've mentioned it. But remember, there was a time in this country you'd hear of somebody who was kidnapped.
Yes.
Okay?
Yes.
And usually you'd be kidnapped when you had left the ATM, because then they then knew that you had an ATM card. Okay? And they would hold you hostage until you had actually emptied whatever was in your account. All right? It was that understanding.
Yeah.
So we no longer hear of it, but
it was a reality.
It was a reality at that particular point in time, and many people feared. The other reality is that people who are IT savvy in this country are very many. The assurances are verbal. It is safe. It is this. I was waiting to read what it is that they've put in as measures to ensure that it is actually safe from people who would want to hack in and people who... I'm sure they'll tell me those safeguards are there. There are people who specialize in precisely that very same thing. It's unfortunate that the stories we hear about land in this country tend to be negative. So it doesn't bolster anyone's confidence in the ministry or in issues to do with land. They are always touchy. And then when you're talking about government systems, let's talk about IFMIS.
There'll be teething problems,
They always are. IFMIS actually
If you lose your
works.
piece of land, it was just teething problems.
Yeah, but the land is
You've lost
gone.
The land is gone, and you can cry
Eric,
tears till you cry
IFMIS
blood.
actually works. It works. But it has to be switched on. I'm speaking as a layman here, and switched on. Off, on. Somebody doesn't switch itself on and off. Somebody switches it on and off. Okay?
We had the good senator who sat here and told us about IFMIS, and he said, what did he say? The system works, there's no problem. However, if I choose to operate within that system at a particular time, that is when you will see that there have been transactions. If I decide to leave the thing alone and I'm not operating within it...
My point from the onset, there are people who have been used to a certain system of corruption within that ministry, they haven't left the ministry. Okay? Then you will bring in people who are trained in IT to ensure that this thing works. And you're going to take them to that ministry. We take young, innocent Kenyans, some from Kenya National Youth Service, we take them to Kiganjo and train them. Many of them want to be people who want to serve as policemen and serve their countrymen. They mean well. Up to that point, we're doing okay. Then you unleash them unsuspectingly into the world, and then they become traffic policemen, then they become you policemen, and you wonder what happened to that lovely young person that I once knew. You are now telling us that in this ministry of lands, one of the most ill-spoken of ministries within our government, one of the ministries that has been tainted with some of the worst corruptions that we've ever witnessed. You're now telling us that this unsuspecting system is going to be put into this ministry to function well. God help.
City, your chronological existence on this earth is basically just showing itself.
God help us.
It's also as who, when computers were introduced in the office, are like,
what is this thing?
We have been having. If I want something, I dictate. I go to that person who's a secretary who has been trained on typing, and they will type. They will bring it out and I will sign, and then it will. I know. The one I have signed, it is in duplicate, in triplicate, is what has come out.
Yes.
Okay? Now, this thing you're telling me, somebody sits in their machine and they type.
And that information is inside this machine.
And they send it.
I can't see it.
There will be issues. That must have been a concern
but Eric,
at that
you
point.
really do have a valid point. But remember, I am the same Cro-Magnon who also mentioned that I was delighted that with e-citizen, I could actually
get your passport.
Passport works wonders. Leave passport aside, okay? I want to ensure that my driving license is updated.
Yes.
Yani, you pay and you cross-check with NTSA, it is there. I am the same person. Did you hear me pitching a fit? No. That system works. And I'm saying, lands.
What is the difference?
You are asking me to put faith.
It is system, boss.
Nope.
It is system.
Systems are operated by human beings.
Whereas
human beings in that ministry, that particular ministry,
I hear the fear.
It's
but
not
I
fear.
think it's what?
This one is reality. I'm just facing reality. Look, we have issues with land, NLC, even now as we speak. We were reminded when that poor lady passed away and was killed. Okay? But NLC did wonders. Okay? And that's just a tip of the iceberg. There are those who just in the normal affairs of day-to-day business, okay, within lands. You are going to bring a system into this same place, same place.
You don't like this thing, eh? It's not going to work. Okay, hold on, CT. Let me ask you something. Is it not going to work?
Sure, it's over.
Is it not going to work because of how you've seen things in the system go wrong previously, or you're comfortable with things that you can see? Because this is a concern.
There's a thing at the back of CT's mind.
I need to be able to see it, but this is a concern for many people.
Let's have this conversation. Let's
Technology
look for the
is a
experts
problem
on this
here.
and understand, so we can raise all those concerns to them, right? So you just give us today's proverb.
Because he lost his reputation, he lost his kingdom. I cannot lose my reputation by staking it on saying that something is going to work out in the Ministry of Lands in this country. No, I'm not losing any kingdom on that one.
You must have some serious experience at the Ministry of Lands. But at the same time, I'm sure you have some pleasant experience in the Ministry of Lands. You hold a title deed.
At a personal level, I actually don't have a problem with the working of the ministry.
You hold title deeds that you have transacted land, you have bought,
yes,
you have sold, and you have not had no issues.
This nightmarish scenario that I'm painting, I actually have not suffered from it personally. But people have suffered and continue to suffer. And people have died and continue to die. And people, that isn't good. You think people who've been involved in this are just going to cede and decide that, well, because of this new
There's
system.
a new system
I'm saying
now,
no, they will not.
Thank you for tuning into the Situation Room today. We'll be back tomorrow morning. Tomorrow will be Thursday, again, the 29th day of April. We'll have more conversations tomorrow. Now, until then, you have a lot of things that are going to happen. Music and interrupted music. You have Monique taking you home at 3. Before then, you have Sugar and Spice coming in now. And then you have Barbara in the evening. And then more music. And then C.T. Muga, Nduoko, and Eric Lati will be